Ray Crawford, Adam the Bull, Garrett Bush, Dustin Fox, Jason Lloyd, Tyvis Powell, plus, ba-da-da-da-da, you're loving him, Mikey McNuggets. And so many big names, it would take me hours to say all of their names. The ultimate Cleveland sports show starts now. Booyah!
Hey, welcome to a new week. I miss the NFL. I can't tell you guys how much I miss the NFL. Because you set in for a while. We've got 8 months with no football.
Yep.
And then the first big weekend afterwards, you're like, okay, what am I going to watch? And then you turn on the dumpster fire that they call the NBA All-Star Game. I don't know how long they're going to call it that. And we're going to talk about that today. Man, I read the reviews this morning, and sometimes on this you just don't know. Hey, that's my opinion. I don't know that. Man, I can't remember seeing a topic so universally agreed upon. It was 100%.
Nobody liked it.
Awful.
Yeah, I thought it was awful. I talked to people who were there, some of the writers who were there, who said, I don't know what this looks like on television, live, in person. This is horrendous.
It was bad enough.
So the people who were there thought it was equally.
And they was drumming it up. I turned on the game. I caught myself turning on the game at 6 p.m. And they're like, yeah, we're about an hour away from kick or tip off. I said, hold on. Why y'all got so much all-star coverage like this is it? This is not it. Like, it was,
it's one thing to do 5 hours of pregame for a Super Bowl.
Yeah, the pregame. They was just going. I think they was doing it because they had the teams and they wanted to explain them, like Team Kenny and all of those things.
This is the last year that TNT has the All-Star Game. It goes to NBC next year. And it's a shame because TNT's legacy with the NBA is they're interconnected forever. Yeah. I mean, heck, after the first quarter or whatever the heck it was last night of the championship game, they had this impromptu, let's cheer on Kenny and the TNT guys.
Which totally killed any sort of momentum.
In the middle of the game.
Yeah.
And it went on forever.
And it wasn't 30 seconds.
It was far from 30 seconds. And what was crazy was, on one hand, any NBA fan that you talk to will tell you how that show helped to elevate the league. More so than any show that has ever been associated with any league in the history of sports television.
Fact.
That show helped to elevate the league. And it was almost an irony that that's the way they're going to go out on the NBA All-Star stage after, 25 years of doing the game?
Yeah.
And next year it goes over to NBC. And next year's going to be much better because everybody's in agreement that this is not it. And then NBC will get all the credit for fixing it, when in reality...
I don't know if there is fixing it.
That's a good. We're going to talk about that.
We'll get to that in a second.
We're going to talk about that. We're also a WNBA team is coming to Cleveland. Is that good? Should we celebrate? They're the Rockers 2.0. We'll get into that. Cynthia Fredlund of the NFL Network, formerly of ESPN, is going to join us. Longtime friend of Cynthia. She's really an analytic. The way she uses analytics is the way I like analytics usage. In fact, her preseason model, she called for the Eagles to beat the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. Kudos to her. She's going to join us around 12 o'clock, I think, right?
At 12 o'clock, top of the hour.
And Shedeur Sanders talk. A lot of smoke around the idea that Shedeur likes Cleveland and Cleveland may like Shedeur. Should we believe any of that? Because it is, after all, draft season, which, if you look it up in the dictionary, translates as lying season. So we'll find out about that. Mikey, your quick take on the All-Star game? It was, wow.
Yeah,
it was something.
It'll be our first topic, so I'll save it till after the break. But I also want to give a shout-out to Dustin and his partner. They won the Midwest Regionals in 2v2 golf. They're heading to Florida. Tennis. They're now headed to Florida for the national championship sometime later this year. So shout-out to Dustin for that accomplishment. And he tells us all the time he plays 2-3 hours of tennis before coming in to do the show sometimes.
In it. Yeah.
Which means he's waking up at 5, 6, playing for a couple.
Yeah.
Tennis is tough.
It's a cult.
And kudos to
it's like golf.
Dustin and all those guys. You're putting in that much work to reap the rewards then, and at this stage of his athletic career post NFL, turning into this quality of a tennis player, nothing short of, and Jay, you've been playing baseball forever, you're still playing at a high level. Like, to compete at that level, at the age Dustin is, after what his body's gone through already, is nothing short of spectacular. So
He's an elite athlete.
Dustin.
He is. He always has been. I mean, I often wonder, what if he'd found tennis at 12?
This is wild. Fun fact, the first sport I played was tennis. I was like 8. I played tennis 8 to 12.
Really?
Wow. Yeah. Why'd you stop? Other sports?
I got really, really big.
Yeah, yeah, it's kind of hard to move at that size.
Yeah, and I started.
And you're hitting a baseball 300 feet.
Yeah, and I was playing baseball, and then just didn't work.
But I wonder what Dustin, like, had he dedicated his life like he did to football?
Yeah.
Had he dedicated it to tennis? The reason that the United States has fallen off of the map in men's tennis is because the competition pulls the great athletes away from tennis.
Yeah.
And I just wonder, had he fallen into tennis at 10 or whatever, and then just become a prodigy and just worked then as he is now at the sport, like what could he have done?
He probably would have made it. I mean,
because he's an elite athlete.
Absolutely.
He jumps 40 inches. He's fast. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he has quick twitch muscles. He has endurance.
Yeah.
He's coordinated. He would have did fine.
My wife plays. She had ankle surgery, so Leslie hasn't really played since then. But it's funny. She actually played with Maureen Kyle.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's a club in Westlake that they play at, and Stefanski's wife plays there. Kevin's wife plays there. And she came home and told me, Kevin's wife plays there. I said, no, you are not allowed to be friends with her. You've got plenty of friends in your life. No playing partners, no friends. We are not doing that. You are not allowed to be friends with her.
That could create a whole lot of problems.
I know, right?
For you.
So then I saw Kevin's wife at the owners' meetings a couple years ago, and I said, my wife plays tennis with you, but she's not allowed to play tennis with you. You're allowed to be at the same club. You're not allowed to be on the court together. You got to find someone else to play with.
You know what's actually crazy about that? Women can find new friends after the age of like 30. Oh, yeah. As men go, you really don't get no new friends.
It's almost all built around sports, really.
Yeah, like you get some acquaintances you might drink some beers with, but you rarely find somebody if you're 47 and you're just out and about to meet another 47-year-old guy and y'all just start hanging out.
We should do coffee. We don't play it like that.
What do you mean, like you try to come over to my crib?
However, you can go to a Browns game in Phoenix.
Yeah.
So a Cardinals and Browns game. And you're sitting in the section, and the two guys in front of you are from Menor. Never met them.
Yeah,
you're going for drinks after the game.
By all means.
You might play golf in the spring back in Ohio.
And they give you their business card.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, let me tell you what I do. What do you do for a living? It's over for that. It's over. Like, yes, that does count. Or
Men and women, the socialization, but there are a lot of differences.
There are a lot of differences.
But then at some age, you just become drinking buddies at 7 a.m. where you go to Panera and sit around at McDonald's. My dad had his drinking buddies. They had drink coffee every morning.
Sure.
7 a.m.
I talk about world events.
Yeah. There's like 8 or 9 of them.
That's the real world. That's the real men's table. Half of them just got, they're either former police officers, firefighters, or they was in a war, and they got all their colors on.
Yeah,
Navy, the Navy, they got all kind of tassels and eagles, and like they drinking at 6:30 with regular papers. I'm like, where did you find those newspapers? We got rid of those years ago. I'm still the last person that gets the plain dealer. I get this.
They might be the last person that gets the plain dealer. There's not many left. When I was a kid, the paper was this wide, that high, and this thick. Every day.
That's Sunday.
I'm telling you, I was like a kid at Christmas every day when it would come. Give me the sports.
Cover to cover.
I would read tennis articles. I didn't care what it was. I just wanted to read it.
Same way.
Now, it's like the size of this. It's about 4 pages, and 2 of them are advertisements. And it comes 3 times a week.
That's crazy. Back then,
in our lifetime,
that Sunday paper was special.
Oh my God!
You had
the comics,
the coupons, everything. Listen,
that thing was like a book.
Yeah, that was it. And if you didn't get, and you had to take turns sharing it. Like somebody would be like, "Hey, can you pass me that sports page?"
Where's the sports? Yep. Man. Yeah, we had five men in our house, so that thing was getting tossed around like crazy.
It was the consistency of toilet paper. By the time you got it, it was all thin. Word down there. Who to crinkle the pages up?
I used to cut out box scores. That used to irritate folks.
You was one of them guys.
Tim Kirkshin has shoe boxes of every box score of every Major League Baseball game for like 30 years. These shoe boxes are in his closet. And I used to tell him, Tim, you do realize there's baseballreference.com now. You can look up the box score of any baseball game that's ever been played. I know, but there's something about the newspaper. I love it.
Oh, man.
It's a good Kirkshin.
It's unbelievable how much he. And he was a newspaper man, so.
Yeah.
Tim, there is some help out there for you if you need it.
Yeah. 1-800 just stop.
Yeah.
All right, let's dive into today's first topic, guys, after a quick word from FanDuel. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on the action than with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you miss the opening tip-off or want to bet on a fourth-quarter comeback, you can stay in on the action, and if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets if they're first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com/UCSS to join today. That is FanDuel.com/UCSS for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. So, guys, on Saturday, the NHL had its Four Nations face-off. There was the Canada versus USA
That was
game.
awesome, by the way.
There were 3 fights in the first 9 seconds. It was
incredible.
everything you kind of want in an all-star showcase. On Sunday, the NBA had its all-star festivities. I will struggle to call it a game because I'm not even sure game describes what we actually saw.
It was like an exhibition to me.
In the 3 hours and 12 minutes of the broadcast, they played 42 minutes of basketball.
Oh.
It was 4
Say that
teams.
one more time.
There was 3 hours and 12 minutes of the broadcast, and of those 3 hours and 12 minutes, 42 minutes were basketball.
Wow.
It was tributes, it was musical
Yeah, but
acts,
now in defense, like if you watch the Super Bowl, there's 3.5 hours, 4 hours, and there's 60 minutes of football.
Different. Yes, but different in different ways. I don't know if it can be saved at this point because the players don't try. And it doesn't matter what the format is if the players aren't going to try. Frankly, it doesn't matter how they set it up. But Jason, did you like the attempt at whatever last night was? And if you didn't, is there a fix? Can you think of a way to fix this situation?
Did anyone like it?
No. I thought, did you guys see Draymond Green destroying it?
Yeah. And I was cheering Draymond.
I thought he was spot on.
I'm like, keep going.
But you know what?
Keep going.
Barkley was also right. They're both right. Draymond said the Rising Stars have no business being on the court on All-Star Sunday night, and he's right.
Yep,
he's
I agree with
1,000% right.
Yeah.
But Charles is also right. Y'all did this. Like, yeah, we're throwing crap against the wall to fix it because of what your generation did to the game.
No, that's true.
And that's also true.
Look, they can disagree and both be correct.
Right.
Because Charles is right. They're the generation. When I was a kid, now I'm going to be the grumpy old man.
Yeah.
There you go.
I could not wait for the NBA All-Star Weekend.
Yeah.
I don't care if it was the three-point shootout, the slam dunk competition. You had Dr. J. You had Michael Jordan. You had Dominique Wilkins. You had Spud Webb.
Yep.
Now we don't even know who's in it.
Yeah.
Three-point shootout. It was classic. It seems like the more they throw whipped cream on it, the more it turns to garbage. And the game itself, I know it was 150 to 144. The game was entertaining. And now it went from something that I loved. It's almost like college basketball. I used to love college basketball. It's my second favorite sport behind baseball.
Yeah.
I don't even watch it anymore. I can't watch it anymore. It's awful. And that's what I think about the NBA All-Star Game. It went from one of my favorite weekends to one of the weekends that I only watched it because I was doing the show today. Point blank, period.
Same.
I did not want to watch that.
Here's why I have a sliver of hope it can be saved. Because as much as I love LeBron, LeBron's one of the ones that killed it. LeBron and his crew, his generation.
We're not going to participate.
Is what has killed this.
Yep.
The reason I think it can be saved is Victor Wembanyama is the next generation, is the next wave. And Victor takes this stuff very seriously.
He does.
He's the one that came up with the cheat code for All-Star Saturday Night, trying to win the skills competition and got thrown out. Everyone blamed Chris Paul. It was actually Wemby. Wemby was playing hard last night. Like, he was defending. So when the top guy does it, it all trickles down from him. If he takes it seriously and he defends.
I thought Kyrie played hard.
Yeah. I mean, at times, I was going back and forth with some people watching it last night. I thought Wemby played hard, and I thought the guys that didn't belong on the court played hard because they probably knew they didn't belong on the court.
Right, they want to prove themselves.
They played hard. The OG's team are screwing around.
Oh, my God, Donovan Mitchell in the finals. Did he make a shot?
Yeah, I think he had 1 3.
Oh, my God.
Threes, but bunch of turnover. It was ugly. It was ugly basketball.
Yeah.
Even Steph Curry. Steph was jacking up shots like a playground
half-court shots, playing horse out there.
It really was.
But when Wemby's generation comes up, if they want to take it seriously, if they want to defend, if they want to get into guys, it'll come back. It'll swing back. But that's the way to save it, is they have to take it seriously.
There's an answer, and Mike touched on it. I looked at the TV. The TV ratings aren't out yet for last night's game. I couldn't find them.
No, I can't find them either.
I think they're hiding them. Now, it's possible that today is President's Day, and it's possible that Nielsen overnights won't be released until tomorrow. I don't know that for sure. I was just guessing. Maybe that's why I couldn't find them. It was odd that by 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, I checked at 10:30. I still couldn't find them. That was odd to me. Usually you can see them. I did look up the NHL All-Star Game ratings. Not the All-Star Game. It's the international tournament.
4 nations.
The 4 nations. Now, the answer is within what the NHL is doing. The NHL decided, let's play for country pride, for patriotism. And what happened in Canada, USA? Now, if you're following world geopolitics, you know that Canada and the United States of America aren't exactly on great terms right now.
Yeah.
They've been booing the national anthem for about 3 weeks, ever since Donald Trump said, we're gonna hit you with tariffs. They boo the national anthem. Now, the hockey players take that personally. We didn't put the tariffs on.
Yeah.
You're booing us and you're booing our song. And we don't like it. And there have been a lot of folks that have come out and said as much. Well, the Tkachuk boys decided, okay, it's on. And seconds after they booed the national anthem, there were 3 fights in 9 seconds.
It was awesome.
And Team USA won all 3. And then they went on and they boat raced Canada on the ice to win the head-to-head matchup. Now, it's possible they could play again Thursday in the championship game.
In Boston.
In Boston
America,
this time.
Which would
Last time it was
better.
in Montreal.
Yeah.
So I'm watching
This is like Rocky
I love
Drago,
hockey.
one in Russia and one in
Listen, it's the reason that the highest television royalties in all of the world go to not the World Cup, not the NBA or Major League Baseball, the Olympics. Why? Because my country's better than your country, and we're going to show you. And when you made the NHL version of their All-Star game about national pride, suddenly you've got, I think the game did a 5.5 rating. A hockey game did a 5.5 national rating. That's astounding.
Now, how do the ratings work now with all of these streaming services and everything?
So there's 2 different ratings. There's the Nielsen overnights. That gives you the deliveries to flat screens at home. Then there's a secondary number that adds in all of the stream. Now, this one's very difficult because, one, the game, the number of Canada was much bigger, did even a bigger number.
Yeah.
And probably same thing with stream. I haven't yet seen an ad number, a stream and TV rating number combined. For the Super Bowl, it added about 5 or 10%, and I think they streamed the Super Bowl this year for free on Tubi, which was the first time that's happened. So you're going to get a bigger number as time goes on and these stream services all start reporting. But the reason I bring this up is because I love hockey. I always have. I love watching international hockey better than NHL. I just think I think it's probably the patriotism thing. But watching Canada against USA at a time when our relations have never been colder was fascinating to me. And the fact that on the opening phase,
yeah,
there wasn't a hit. You didn't say anything to me. You didn't check me against the boards. You didn't cross-check me. You didn't high-stick me. I'm doing this because I don't like your fans. Boom. And now all of a sudden it's on, and we all had a dog in that fight.
I think it's a little different with the NHL because, unlike Canada is the birth of hockey, birthplace.
Well, they used to own it.
So they take that literally like their pastime,
like our baseball,
or
basketball
or football, where it's like, no, y'all shouldn't be beating us. I think the NBA All-Star Game is not. You can't save it unless you put the stakes there. Like, until the stakes are actually very high.
Is it USA versus the world? Is that how you do it?
You might be able to get that off a little bit, but then again, how do you do USA? Are you going to have enough international players on a season?
Are you going to have enough U.S. players?
Yeah, right.
I think you'd have more than enough on both. Like, we've got a lot of.
So this year, right? So you would technically have international players.
We did this a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, we did it. And we disagreed as to who would win. I think you said the USA would kill them.
No, I didn't say I said I was still picking them to win, but everybody else said that the
world would smoke the
I think
US.
world would kill us.
Yeah.
I think they would destroy us.
They would.
Would the world all come together, though, with the pride? Because it's Team USA versus Team Canada in that instance. If it's just Team World versus Team USA.
And here's why. Because it's like the Ryder Cup. To me, whenever you're playing for more than just self or jersey, and the only time you can do that is when it's like this international competition. That's why the Olympics are so special. I don't care about it. When do we watch downhill skiing?
Once every 4 years.
That's it. But we'll watch, and we learn from the human interest features that before we're like, oh, that's my girl right there. She's got to win. I didn't know her 10 minutes ago, but now that's my girl. Right. She's got to win. I just think that the world would absolutely come together because there's been a lot of talk over the last decade. Has the United States of America lost its stranglehold on basketball talent? And as we've seen the MVPs and the championships slowly start to trickle to European influence and foreign influence, and how close the Olympics are now, I think now we're seeing that, the world has either caught up, and because it's not just one country, it's so many.
Wait do you see the LA Olympics in 4 years? Wait do you see? It's going to be a reckoning for the U.S.
It will be a reckoning, but here's the thing. That's going to be Spain against the U.S., France against the U.S. Put all of those European countries together and African nations together, and you can now pick from the whole world. I don't think the U.S. would be able to win that. I just don't.
Here's what I would do.
I'd like to see a 7-game series.
If you wanted to do that, I'll be cool with it. We'll split the teams up, United States versus the international. What I want to do is this. I don't know if they would do it because obviously you're playing in cities around America. But if the international teams win, they got to do All-Star Weekend in an international city. And
they've had them in Toronto before.
I want them in. No, I want them in. I want them in.
You got to go to Paris.
Paris. You got to go to South Africa.
That'd be great.
You got to go to France.
Look, they want to grow the game. What better way to grow the game? But you'd have to shut the All-Star game down for more than just
what I want is
8 days.
I want you to be in a third world country with generals sitting in the stands and glow sticks and lighters, flame torches, and you're with that crowd chanting the entire game.
I think it would help the ratings.
Man,
I also think it would help grow the game worldwide.
Can you imagine? You got LeBron and Steph Curry going into South Africa trying to play an international team. That is wild. People would go crazy for that.
I would even go so far as I'm really going to get out on a limb now. I would go so far as to say, give me a 3-game series, world versus U.S., and take it to 3 different cities. U.S. gets 1. Maybe you play a game in Barcelona. Maybe you play a game in Paris.
Well, now you're shutting down the league for 3 weeks.
It's okay. I'm okay with that.
Get rid of
the issue
playing
that
cup.
is, though.
The league's broken.
Get rid of the little cup. That little cup they have,
that's stupid.
I would do that. I would rather see that than the other ones.
Gee, if we did that, the only backside, I'm with you, it'd be fun. But can you imagine if Donovan Mitchell went up to block a Franz Wagner shot and rolled his ankle, and we're in here today talking about how the Cavs, incredible start in the second half of their season.
The NHL has dealt with that. The NBA has dealt with that.
World Baseball Classic. They play their tails off.
That's right.
But if hockey does fit that category. And I was telling Jason beforehand, if Four Nations turns into someone getting seriously hurt, then they probably will reconsider. Do you know, are they doing Four Nations again next year in an Olympic year? Is this something that's going to be an annual
I hope they do it
NHL?
every year. I don't know why they wouldn't. It's their highest rated telecast in like six years.
Into the baseball
Not
thing,
non-Stanley Cup.
There's a lot of people that don't like the World Baseball Classic because pitchers are rushing to get ready.
100%.
And then it's leading to more injuries.
Well, didn't the Mets lose their closer a couple years ago?
Edwin Diaz.
Yeah. I think there've been
there's
a
other
couple of
examples
injuries
too.
that have
they
been
be playing hard during them games.
I know
it's an imperfect science. I'm not sure there's one.
But you just touched on something. You just touched on something. They play hard in those games. Why?
Because
they're playing for their flag.
They're like, yo, I'm from, especially when you talk about teams from Latin America. They
lay it out there.
They play Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic.
But with the NBA, those guys want their 3 or 4 days to go lay on the beach somewhere in the middle of season 2. So you got to factor that. I mean, that's a lot of the reasons why these guys skip the game is because they want to go take a week off.
Would
in the
you
middle
agree
of the
with this
season.
assessment? I don't want to overstate it. This could be hyperbole. To me, as an observer of television, sports, and sports in general, if I'm driving the car right now, the NBA car, all of my red dials are flashing right now. Am I overstating it?
No.
The league's popularity has taken a major hit.
Yeah.
Okay, so desperate times call for desperate measures.
Well, here, yes and no, because the TV contract that's incoming they're going to be fine for another decade.
Here's the problem with that. Complacency can set in. It happened with the NFL or ESPN when they first got Monday Night Football. The NFL, I don't know if you guys remember this, they handcuffed ESPN with the worst set of nationally televised games you've ever seen. That was at a time when they were trying to prioritize Sunday Night Football and their relationship with NBC. There is a long-standing feud between the NFL and ESPN. The NFL, make no bones about it, their goal when they launched the NFL Network, they wanted to cripple ESPN. And it didn't work out the way they had hoped because they weren't able to get the amount of money per sub, per household that ESPN did with their deal. So they said, well, fine, we're gonna throw terrible games at you for Monday night. We were getting Atlanta and New Orleans. Okay, it's not horrible. It's a divisional game, and if they're both good, that's great. But it's not the Giants and the Cowboys or the Eagles and the Cowboys. All the NFC East games went on NBC, all of them. And for some reason, ESPN was getting trash. And the NFL I think they thought it was funny that they were doing that, but they were cutting off their nose to spite their face because those ratings going down on ESPN hurt them. That's their product. And they hurt their product by putting garbage games in what used to be the premier window of NFL. Used to be the night. Mm-hmm. And so I think they felt like, well, we've got plenty of time to course correct. We'll do this for 4 years, and then for the last 4 years, the contract will start giving them better games. And they did. Gradually, they started getting better games. But the better games are always on NBC. They have the ability to flex in and out of games on Sunday night. We saw the Browns get flexed out in Week 16. So I'm saying all that to say this. If they want to lean on their laurels, and by the way, I don't think Commissioner Stern does. I think Silver does. I think he knows all the red lights are flashing. And that's why they're trying desperately to this in-season tournament, garbage, this all-star game thing, make it relevant again, garbage. I think he knows that all the red lights are flashing, and it doesn't matter how long the deal is. It's the commissioner's job to pilot, not this contract's done. I got to build for the next contract. You're always thinking about the next contract. And right now, if the NBA was to renew their negotiations right now, you might see for the first time in American sports television history, the value of a sports league on television go down because it's not what it was when they negotiated the last one.
If they want people to play hard, if they really wanted to, if they're serious about it, if you do move it to an international stage, people will say, well, why would you take that away from Americans? Americans don't care about it. We've already seen this show. We've seen everything. We've seen exactly what it is for years and years.
Well, the fans have looked at it as a party.
They're like, oh, this is a party. We're going to come down and hang out for All-Star Weekend, and that's what we're going to do. Celebrities are down there. But if you take this thing to Barcelona and you do an All-Star Weekend, guys will be amped up and excited for the three-point shootout. They go crazy. Yeah. They're going to cheer for skills challenges, and they're definitely going to cheer. And what will happen is the atmosphere will force the leaders like Giannis or LeBron or Steph or whoever the leaders are, Durant. It forces you to play that way because the atmosphere will be so electric and teams in international crowds will be rooting for the international team so much. It would take on a level of pride to say, oh, no, we're not about to come out here and lose, especially if you lose a couple years in a row.
Yeah.
It's the same way that they didn't take the Olympics for granted. They didn't really take that seriously. They started sending college kids, and what happened? Y'all started losing, and they had to reinvest and revitalize the sport by bringing people in who actually cared about playing, and that's where the United States kind of got back into it. But listen, make it an international thing.
Speaking of making it competitive and taking it seriously, there were some aspects of the weekend that certain guys did take seriously, including Donovan Mitchell and Evan Mobley in the skills challenge. I know Wemby ended up getting disqualified for his just chucking of the balls, but Mobley and Mitchell ended up being your skills challenge champions. You can see their run through the course here on the screen as we talk about it. But Did you like at least – I know the game was whatever. And, Jay, you're right. Donovan Mitchell was 0 for 11 in the championship game. I was incorrect. He did not score a bucket.
Can you imagine that? 0 for 11?
He was 0 for 7 and 0
he
for 4 from
tries.
3 in 11 minutes, yeah. So he did not play well. But in the skills challenge, he did perform well. Did you like seeing Mitchell and Mobley take that aspect of the weekend seriously and bring home some hardware to the city of Cleveland?
Yeah, I think it was more big for Mobley because when they interviewed him, he was like, they're like, "Is this the year for Cleveland?" He said, "Oh yeah, this is our year, man." Like he was riding high after that one. He was like, "Yeah, this is our year. We're just gonna keep balling out, and continue to go on." I think these little small things, people may laugh and joke and say, "Oh, come on, bro, you think because you won the skills challenge that all of a sudden y'all nice?" Nah, for younger players, these things mean something on the stage, especially when it's your first All-Star game. You're in there with your peers. You got your two other teammates, and Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell there. These type of things really start to make you believe that, I belong here. I belong amongst the best. And then that confidence level kind of really gets to a place where you start playing that confidently. So this is just, a wave that Evan Mobley has been on. I expect him to catapult himself into the second part of the season and him continue to be aggressive and continue to have his game evolve. So yeah, it's always cool to see, whether it was back in the day Kyrie won the MVP or guys winning the 3-point contest. It's not that crazy, but for younger guys, I think it's pretty important. It's pretty cool to see.
I'd love to see international competition. I think that would pique my interest again. It would make me care and want to watch because I think we watch sports because we don't know how they're going to turn out, and we like to bet on them also. I don't care who wins the All-Star game. I have zero interest if the East or the West wins.
Yeah, it don't matter.
It doesn't mean anything, and especially when it's Team Chuck or Team Kenny.
Yeah.
I would rather flip a coin 100 times and see if heads or tails wins. I don't really care about Team Chuck and Team Kenny. If you give me Team USA and Team World, and by the way, just imagine the merchandising opportunities, the jersey sales for Team USA. Not an Olympic team, it's an NBA Team USA. And I would watch that. I just think that I would have much more interest in that than Team Chuck and Team Kenny.
I think though too, man, and I give LeBron a lot of credit for a lot of stuff. But you do have to say that I think LeBron is partly responsible for the decline in the All-Star weekend. If you look at it, you look at the names and the caliber of players that were in the dunk contest. Let's be clear. The dunk contest is the energy of the weekend. That is what we all looking for. We looking for like our top guys participating and doing crazy stuff. So I'll give them credit when it was Dominique, when it was Dr. J, when it was Kobe Bryant was one of the guys.
Michael
Jordan was one of the they took that responsibility and understood, hey, bro, this is what people are looking at. And it got to a point where now everybody was looking for, even Tracy McGrady and Vince Carter.
Yeah.
It gets to LeBron and it's like,
he ended it.
Yeah. I don't know if and then you start teasing it every year. I might get in it. I'm like, come on, bro, you killing you killing the vibes, man. And then people start, like Zion Williamson, like Ja Morant, bro. Listen, y'all not like that. You still got to get y'all's pedigree up. Like, you're not a 12-year pro and like Kevin Durant or somebody or Steph. Like, use your athleticism and put it on for the NBA. Like, the older guys knew it was a responsibility, as there is Jason, to really get in the dunk contest for the fans.
Was LeBron afraid of losing, Jay? Is that what it was? Because he had more to lose than to gain.
He probably did have more to lose than to gain, but so what?
That's what I say.
It's an All-Star weekend.
It's a contest.
Yeah.
He was in the All-American McDonald's dunk contest.
Yeah, he was asked this weekend. He said no part of him regrets not doing it. I think it was a mistake. I think he should have done it. His second year in the league, his first year that he was an All-Star. There's no reason not to do it. His third year in the league.
I think he robbed himself of the opportunity.
There comes a point where, you probably phase yourself out. But the fact that he never did it it's a shame.
I think the reason is LeBron ain't got no dunks.
He's a power
dunker. He's not a hang in the air.
Nah, he's not going. He not no creativity. He ain't got them type.
But what does it say that the best dunker in the world isn't an NBA player?
I mean, you can go out to the playground and find dudes who can dunk.
If you go, Jason, we were at the Cavs game a couple weeks ago, and they did a dunk contest at halftime.
It was crazy.
The best dunks in the world, because that's what they do.
It was crazy.
Two professional dunkers, and listen, I love Mac. I've known Mac for 10 years now. Like, I covered him in high school when he was at Gate City. Great for him, but like, you can find better dunkers.
Why don't they then, for the dunk contest, just open it up to non-NBA players?
They should.
And just say, bring in the 6 best dunkers in the world.
We'll be down for
because the whole idea is to put on a show, and it would kind of, now I don't know that this would spark any interest for NBA players, but it would basically say to the NBA players, you're not good enough at this, so we got to bring in outsiders.
And they could do a whole road to the dunk contest where the NBA players go find some of the best dunkers.
Maybe they coach.
Them up and they find them like, we got to find this guy's amazing. And they do like tryouts or something. And whoever the best dunker is, they bring them in.
6 NBA players get to draft blindly from a selection of 6 dunkers, and then they coach that dunker. So there's at least an NBA tie to this thing.
I'm all for it.
But it's just, there's got to be ways that they can make this thing better. And the game itself, Steph chucking up half-court shots with that little quick, that's just, oh my God, that was hard to watch.
It's not it.
Do you think they knew that it was as bad as it was?
Of course, yeah.
Because even Kevin Hart, like I felt Kevin's job is to read an audience and to get a reaction from them, and he knows when he's bombing. I'm watching Kevin, and I thought, this is like one of the funniest people on the planet. And I feel like for him, this is like what it must feel like when you have to do a bar mitzvah because you're just taking a paycheck.
Yeah.
That was so hard to look at.
And the fact that they were piping that into the players were telling them shut up. Like,
I know they had enough. The jokes weren't funny.
It's just a miss. Swing and a miss. An air ball, you could call it for NBA terms, but hopefully they can get it back to a better
maybe a
product for next season. Let's change gears, though, talk a little Browns. Before we do that, if you want to be part of the UCSS newsletter, you can text the number there on the bottom of your screen, 216-435-1590 to get signed up for our weekly newsletter. Earl writes a little article, Steve makes a top 5, and it puts a nice little compilation together of anything you may have missed from the week before on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show channel. So if you're not signed up for the newsletter and want to, you can text that number you see at the bottom of your screen. All right, guys, Shedeur Sanders and Cleveland. There is reportedly a lot of mutual interest here. Shedeur Sanders admitted that his first top 30 visit in the month of March will be to the Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns need a quarterback. You can tie all the pieces together and connect the dots if you want. But my question to you guys is today, we are still over 2 months from the NFL draft. Do you believe the Sanders to Cleveland love and interest is legitimate, or is it simply just a smokescreen to entice either the Giants, the Raiders, the Saints, or another team to trade up into the Browns' number 2 selection to acquire Shedeur Sanders? So, Jay, we'll start with you. Are you buying the connection, or are you selling it as a
I'm anxious to hear what the other guys have to say because I've been pretty clear on this. I think most of what teams are reported to be thinking is not true. So I don't buy any of it. Now, might they take Shedeur Sanders? Sure, they could. But I've learned so many years ago to discount almost all pre-draft reports. The only thing I ever really believe is when the number 1 team, the team that has the number 1, they're the only team that has all their options in front of them.
Yeah.
It's happened many times where that team has just decided in January, this is who I'm taking. And then they come out and they say it. We're already in negotiations with their agent. I believe that. Outside of that, everything, I look at everything with a grain of salt.
Man, the Cleveland Browns ain't good enough to be having nobody smoke screens. Like, I can understand if you was balling. I can understand if you had a great season or you have a track record of fleecing people for draft picks or had a great track record of developing some of these high draft picks, and then you could get creative and move around the board and try to put little misinformation out over here and have people. Listen, you got way too many holes. You got way too many spots on this roster that need to be filled for you to be running around trying to be cute. To be honest with you, you're sitting at 2. You need a quarterback. You might want to actually talk to the guy and see if he's going to be a dude that you can live with or a dude.
Well, they are going to talk to him.
Yeah. So that, I mean, I don't know why that would be a smoke screen. Like you have.
So you when you hear that there's interest, you believe it.
Oh, of course. Why wouldn't there be? He's one of the top quarterbacks in this draft.
Well, I'll give you one reason for why you would want to participate in misinformation. You could pretend like you love him and hope that the Giants love him more.
Right.
And then you can improve your draft capital by trading down and getting more assets. And here's another reason why you might do it. You don't love him. And you don't think he's career changing or franchise changing. And so, but you realize that I'm holding a valuable card here. It says number 2 on it. So I'm going to pretend like I love him. So if there's a team below us that really loves him, they might pick up the phone and call us. There are a lot of reasons to disseminate false stories.
Yeah,
so that's why.
You could do that, but in my opinion, the Browns aren't in a position today to me, I'll say this: if I'm drafting, I'm not trading down, and I'm not going to do that. I'm going to stay there and I'm going to take somebody. And the reason I say I'm going to stay here and take somebody is that there's this thing that the quantity of people you get is better than the quality of individuals you get. If I'm sitting here and
you trade down, you get more.
But theoretically, you're getting less talented players. If I trade from 2 to 6, I'm not going to get no Abdul Carter. I'm not going to get Travis Hunter. I'm not even getting the top 2 quarterbacks. Now you're left with a defensive tackle and maybe a left tackle. I need blue chip top quality players.
Well, there's every year in the draft there are guys taking 6 that far outperform guys that were taking 2. That happens every year.
If you trust the franchise to get it right.
See, that's where. So, Jason, to me that's my thesis statement. If you're the Baltimore Ravens, if I'm a fan of the Ravens and they trade down, I'm like, they know what they're doing. They got something planned. But when the Browns do that, I'm like, oh God, here we go.
To me, when they trade down,
here comes straight junking.
I'd be sitting there thinking like, okay, so you weren't confident in your game to pick somebody, so now you need more picks so you could at least say I got something out of it.
Well, like you said, quantity sometimes is better than quality.
You just want a bunch. I always look. I've seen the Browns draft when they had 2 first-round picks. And they missed on both of them. I saw them one year have 2
Justin Gilbert and Johnny Manziel.
Yeah.
Misses. Danny Shelton and Cam Irving.
Yep.
Are you? So I'm looking. You drafted a center that didn't even play center, and a nose tackle that was a 1 to 2 down nose tackle, and you was clapping it up. And this after that, I said, listen. If you would have stayed where you were, take the guy whoever it is. Hey, I don't think I'm leaning towards quarterback. People want Abdul Carter, even if I don't really necessarily agree with that. At least stay at 2 and take Abdul Carter. Don't be hanging out and trading back and doing all this other nonsense. Get you a blue chip player. Get you somebody that's going to make an impact.
Yeah.
But for the Browns, look. They need a quarterback. They should be talking to Shedeur Sanders.
Jay, is this smokescreen, this interest in
Well, the last thing
Shedeur?
G said, I think, is it. When you are in the position they're in a quarterback, you have to talk. You have to talk to everybody. So is there interest? Well, there better be, at least on some level, some sort of interest, because you have to find out. And the thing, I'm just going to keep saying this to the draft. You have to. I understand the Browns' draft record has been less than sterling to this point. But these are the guys you're relying on. You have to go off of their assessment. And if they say this is the guy, then you take him. You don't trade down. You're in desperate need of a quarterback. If your scouts and your front office says this is the guy, this is who we believe in, if this is who Kevin wants, that's who you take. Yeah. It's a really simple, but this idea, the part that I just struggle with, and we were talking about this over the weekend in our group chat, just because you need a quarterback, well, you got to take quarterback because you need a quarterback. Well, that's what you do in fantasy football when it's the 5th round and you haven't taken a quarterback yet. So you look at the draft guide and say, well, I need a quarterback. That's who's available. All right, I'm going to take him.
Yeah, no.
You can't do that. But you have to rely on the scouting process. You have to rely on the people in your room. You have to rely. And I think that there are things that Shedeur does that would fit perfectly with what Kevin wants in his offense. He's accurate. He makes good decisions. doesn't turn the ball over. Okay, well, that's pretty much what Kevin Stefanski's looking for, I would think, at a quarterback. So for those reasons, I could see why they like him. And then there's some Superman to his game where he's trying to do a little bit too much, and that takes you back to what Baker was doing when he was here the first time, of trying to play outside of who you really are and trying to play like Mahomes when you're not Mahomes. That's the stuff that'll get you in trouble. So ultimately, you just have to rely on the guys that you are paying. And I've talked about this before. You look at Andrew Berry and say, are you going to stand on the table and pound the table for this guy and say, this is our guy? Is Kevin Stefanski going to pound the table and say, this is the guy I want at quarterback? Then you stay right where you are and you take him. But if they're looking at you and going, man, I don't know, I don't think this is it, I don't see how you can take him, because you're just trying to get lucky at that point.
I think, to your point, Jay, it has to be universal inside the organization.
I don't think it's ever universal.
No, sometimes it's universal. If it's Joe Burrow, it's universal.
Sure.
Now, are you more likely to find a consensus on Abdul Carter than Shedeur Sanders? I think you are.
Yeah.
I think you are.
Probably.
And at this point, it really is about placing bets on who you think is going to translate at the next level. And for me, the reason why I've said from the beginning, and I will maintain that it should be, and I think it will be, Abdul Carter, is because this is the guy that if you get 10 NFL scouts in the room, you're going to get the highest consensus that he's going to translate to the next level. Because Big Ten pass rushers translate to the next level. They just do. They have and they do. Now, do Big 12 quarterback, what the hell is Colorado in now?
They're the Big 12.
Okay. Do Big 12 quarterbacks translate?
Mahomes did.
One did.
Yep.
There are plenty of others that did not.
Yep.
It's just like Ohio State quarterbacks. Ohio State quarterbacks haven't translated to NFL success. I'm not saying that because it's the program and the position, but sometimes there are, like when you look at Big Ten pass rushers, you got the Watt brothers. You've got Hutchinson from the Lions. You've got the Bosa brothers. They work. Why? Because the Big Ten has NFL quality offensive linemen. Big dudes from Wisconsin.
This is why I just did it. If you ever seen a barbershop, go check it out. I did a couple of segments on this. And I said, the consensus thing, yeah, that works out. But, I put together a montage of how many top-notch guys said that Jalen Hurts was not it. I mean, it was rampant. You can go from Michelle, you can go to Booger McFarland, you can go to Mel Kiper, Daniel Jeremiah. All those guys said there is no way Jalen Hurts is that deal. And
well, were they wrong? He's not a top 5 quarterback.
But they were wrong in this. The quote exactly was from Todd McShay. I don't believe that Jalen Hurts is going to take the Eagles or any other team in the league to a Super Bowl ever.
Okay, so that part of it was wrong.
And how many quarterbacks were taken before Hurts that are nothing?
Right.
But so
and look at the talent that he has around him in Philadelphia, not just on offense.
But let's not act like he was drugged to the championship when he got to when he got to the first year, 300 yards in that game. You look at yesterday or the last week, he greatly outplayed Patrick Mahomes. What I'm saying is, yes, certain times people can be wrong in their assessment of what is this guy going to be or not. When it comes to Abdul Carter, my only issue is, and I'm not saying Abdul Carter's garbage. I think he could be a great pass rusher and a very productive player. But if you look at if you just compare apples to apples, if you already had Myles Garrett, and he's a Hall of Famer and the best defensive end, and you won 3 games. Abdul Carter, at best, being kind, is going to do what? Put 75% up of the production that Myles is giving you?
Here's the problem.
If they give you the 75 with that, then what are you going to get? 10 sacks? So he's impacting the game on a bad team 10 times. Throw in a couple of tackles for loss. Say 7 or 8 in the run game. That's 17 plays. Maybe he had a couple strip sacks. That's another 4. You got 21 plays that he impacted the game when you have a need for a guy that is going to impact every single touch. Even if you get a quarterback, it's the audibles, it's the line, it's getting them in the right set, it's throwing the football on 3rd down, it's the handoffs, it's the play action. They touch the ball every single play. So if I'm looking at it based on value. If I got a quarterback and Abdul Carter, even if Abdul Carter is better as a prospect, I have to and I must take in consideration the value that quarterback brings. And that's why I think that if it was me, I would hard pressed I would have to stay at 2 and figure out the quarterback.
See, what you're arguing is the quarterback is clearly the most important position on the field. You'll get no argument from me on that. I couldn't agree more with that. It absolutely is. But I will also state that because of that, when you miss at quarterback, it is far more punitive than if you miss at any other position. It sets you back 3 to 5 years, in some cases longer. That's why I'd say, if the consensus is Shedeur is going to be a better NFL player than Abdul Carter will, then absolutely, to Jason's point, you can't call his name fast enough. If they think that and Tennessee takes someone else, I would hope that as ESPN's commentators are telling us all the great things about Tennessee's pick, I would hope that 8 seconds later you would hear a doo-doo-doo-doo, doo-doo-doo-doo, and the number 2 pick is in. You can't get to the podium fast enough if you are convinced that he will be a better NFL player than Abdul Carter will. Because of what you say, it clearly is a more important position. But there's a saying as a homeowner. A lot of times you'll go out and you get 3 bids for a job. Maybe it's a concrete job. You're going to put in a new driveway. One's for $50,000, one's for $30,000, one's for $20,000. And you're like, wait a minute, it's the same thing. It's a driveway. I'm going to go for the $20,000. And there's a saying. If you think it's expensive to hire a professional, hire an amateur.
Right.
Because now the $20,000 driveway crumbles in 3 years because they didn't rebar it properly. And now you're calling the $50,000 guy, and now you're going to have $70,000 into it. That's exactly where the Browns are at quarterback.
Now, Jason, I'll say this.
They hired an amateur.
They could take, here's usually the way it works. He'll meet with some people, and his stock will eventually go up or down.
Yeah.
And a lot of times people either talk themselves into taking a guy or talk themselves out of it.
To your earlier point, I wholeheartedly, I love Dane Brugler. I think Dane is terrific at what he does.
He does a great job.
Mel Kiper's been doing this 40 years.
Yep.
Todd McShay's great. If these guys, then why aren't they working for teams?
Well, in fairness to Mel, Mel has had offers.
That's kind of funny.
Mel has had offers to become.
Well, and Mike Mayock was terrific on TV. He got in charge of the Raiders, and he was a disaster. So part of it is their own evaluation.
Yes.
Yep.
Which I don't put a lot of stock in.
And it's entertainment.
But a lot of it is also, I know for Dane talks to a lot of scouting departments across the league. So it's almost a consensus of what teams think about these guys. That plays a heavy part in their analysis as well. But I'll go back to what I said earlier. I don't care as good as the Ravens are, as good as the Eagles are, as good as the whatever team, the Chiefs, whatever team you want to put in there, as good as they are at drafting, I'm not paying those guys. I'm paying you. What do you think? What is your recommendation? Do we take him or not? And if your recommendation is we take him, we're running to the podium and we're taking him.
Okay.
As quickly as you can.
McNuggets, I'm asking one question.
No. You know what? Because this is good. We'll do the WNBA stuff after Cynthia comes on because I like this conversation.
Yeah, this should flow right into Cynthia.
Yep. So let's just keep this going.
So I think Bull was hitting at something. Say, for instance, Jimmy Haslam says, look, I want you to take a guy that you guys feel is the best player for the team, the long-term future of the Browns. And because I know we need a quarterback and there may be some pressure on you to take said quarterback, do you think Jimmy Haslam would or should tell Andrew Berry, Kevin Stefanski, you guys are going to be safe this next year? I'm going to give you that vote of confidence because of the pressure I know is on you to make a decision about the quarterback. I'm going to give you, next year.
You can't. You could say anything you want because he said that to people before. Mm-hmm. I better not name the executive. I was told of an executive who got a glowing review. It is a yearly review. Glowing review, nothing negative. 2 weeks later, Jimmy fired him. So
even if they did,
even if he tells you, you have my word, I'm not firing you guys. It don't matter. Like you go through, and I can use Hugh's name on this. Like they had this whole deconstruction plan with Hugh. And Hugh said, Hugh told him, no, you're going to have to fire me because the pressure is going to be so great on you. If we are as bad as you think we're going to be, you're going to have to fire me. And to his credit, and then they gave him an extension. They gave him a 1-year extension. Then they did fire him anyway. So it doesn't matter what the owner is telling you in January, February, and March. It doesn't matter. Unless they give you another and they've already gotten their extension. He could say whatever he wants now. It doesn't mean he's going to hold to it in October when you're 2-4 and fans are not showing up again and they're screaming at you again and his emotional is reactionary as Jimmy Haslam is.
Especially if they don't take the quarterback and he plays well. And you could have got him, people going to lose it.
Yeah, there's always that risk that the guy you pass on, every team in the NFL is looking around saying, oh my God, we could have taken Tom Brady 5 times and passed. That's always going to be the case. I don't think you do think about those things like, wow, what if we miss it on him and Pittsburgh gets him later and he becomes, well, that happens. You have to focus on your needs and what you think is going to be the best for your football team moving forward. The interesting thing about what you said about Myles Garrett, and we've talked about this, well, you made the case for trading Myles Garrett. You made it. Well, wait a minute. They've had Myles Garrett, and what have they won? Nothing. So, conventional wisdom says, if you've tried this, where your best player is a defensive end, and you've been woeful, you've been a dumpster fire for his 8 years, then if you want to deprioritize that position, trade him, get more assets, draft Abdul Carter as his replacement. How much you drop off? There's definitely going to be drop off. He's not going to be Myles Garrett 2.0. But what if he does hit like Aiden Hutchinson or one of the Bosas or one of the Watts? Well, then you're okay at that position. I think the danger is you shouldn't have your best player, definitively your best player, at defensive end when your definitive worst player is your quarterback. That is a recipe for disaster.
We've seen it twice. We had the definitive best player on the team beat Joe Thomas.
Yeah.
And never won.
What good did that do us?
So my thing is, hey, yes, if you are in a position that you have the quarterback in place and you know it, by all means, if you want to get trench happy, great. Go draft the best defensive tackle. That makes a ton of sense.
But you better have the quarterback.
But you better have the quarterback, or you're gonna say, okay, so I just traded Myles Garrett for Abdul Carter, which is a net loss on productivity. And even if he does become Myles Garrett, what's the ceiling for your defensive end being the best player on your team? It's not Super Bowl.
No.
It's just you gotta have the guy. And like I said before, I draft 2 guys. The Browns, if they were smart, even if if you want to take a quarterback in the second round, say for instance they did take Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter, whoever they're gonna take. You take them in the first round, then in the second round, all right, you want to take a quarterback, you want to get the Jackson Dart, even though I don't think he'll be there. I'll take one right there, and I'm taking one in the 4th round. I'm taking another. I got 2 third round. I'm taking 2 quarterbacks in this draft.
Yeah,
2.
G, let me ask you this, G. Does what you think the Browns should do on April 24th directly correlated to whether or not Myles Garrett is on the team or not?
No.
Do those 2 things go directly hand in hand, or they obviously have some sort of influence, but not if this happens, then this has to happen because?
No, I'm a firm believer that Myles Garrett is gone. I've already moved on in my mind. At some point in time, he's already said it. It's just like somebody when you get in a divorce. If a woman asks for a divorce, she's made
up her mind.
She's made up her mind. She done divorced you weeks ago.
Do you agree with that? He's 100% never going to wear a Browns helmet again?
No, I don't agree with that.
Okay.
Because he's got 2 years left under contract, and then they could franchise him. Browns have all the leverage on this.
I agree with that.
Now,
I'm not saying that they are going to trade him, but I think there's a world where he comes back.
I do too.
I don't think it's that clear cut that he's absolutely gone.
But the decision making that you're making right now should be devoid of worrying about Myles Garrett. The decision making prospect has to be who's the most valuable position, can we get the best player available, and can we find a quarterback? If Myles Garrett wants to come back, fine, you're a better team. But I can't operate thinking that, this is going to help somehow. It's the same LeBron thing. LeBron does it all the time. And guess what? LeBron is in his camp. He understands what the game is. LeBron put maximum pressure on you. He made you do, hey, I want you to do this. I want you to pick that guy up. I want JR. I want Shump. Give me Mike Miller. And then he puts you in that position. You go out and do it. And then it's like, I'm going over here anyway. This is run its course.
Right.
So for me, I don't feel you can operate in saying, I'm going to do this to make Myles Garrett happy.
No, the difference is LeBron always signed 1+1s and kept that pressure on and would leave as a free agent if you didn't do what he wanted. Myles is under airtight contract for 2 years plus franchise tags after that. So the Browns have full control of that. For me, it comes down to how far away do you think you are? Are you just a quarterback away, or do you need to complete overhaul? I think it's more closer to a complete overhaul than it is just a quarterback away, which is why I think you have to look long and hard at trading Myles, not because Myles went on this publicity tour, but because, hey, he's 29 years old. He's got 2 years left on this contract. Are we going to be back in a position in the next 2 years to where he can really help us? Or do we need more of a complete reset here? I think it's more on the side of complete reset because of the assets you can get for him, because I don't think it's just a quarterback away. I think they got a lot more issues than that.
Yeah, I agree.
And I'll say this and Browns, if you're listening, if you get a young quarterback and he looks like he's a franchise guy, people forget all about Myles Garrett asking for a trade.
Yeah.
They'll forget all about because people will be excited about watching the future rather than talking about a defensive end being your best player.
And we've talked about this before. What are your intentions here? Are you just trying to make the playoffs? Okay, you can go out and find a veteran quarterback, and you could probably piece this thing together enough with what they have on the current roster. You could be in contention for that final playoff seed in the East. You ain't win the Super Bowl, but you can turn this back to respectability and be in contention for the playoffs quickly. Yeah. I mean, but you're not going to win a Super Bowl. So what are you trying to do? Are you trying to save face and just make the playoffs and get run in the first round again? Or are you trying to build a team that can contend with the Chiefs and the Ravens and the Bills in the East?
Well, that's a process. That's not a one-year leap.
But that's why you have to make the decision now with Myles.
Right.
If we're just trying to piece this thing together and you're just trying to make it back to the playoffs, well, then you keep Myles. You go out and find a veteran quarterback. You win. You hope to win 9 games. And you hope to be, because they should have a favorable schedule, being a last-place team. You're going to play a last-place schedule. Sure. You could try and slide in. But I don't know that is the long-term, that's in the interest of the long-term health of the franchise.
G's dug in that Myles won't play for the Browns again. You and I see a world where he absolutely could play.
I've seen too many guys.
If I said you're putting all your chips, let's play Myles Garrett Casino, and you have to put a percentage of chips on him coming back and a percentage of chips on him being done. How many go into the he's coming back and how many go into the he's done out of 100?
I'd probably go, this is a cop-out, but I'd probably go 50-50 right now.
Okay.
It's just too early. It's February, man. We got a long way to go.
Yeah, and there's no way of thinking what – we don't really know, because they're not going to tell us the truth. We don't really know what the Browns truly think of the available draft pool.
Right.
We don't know.
I think if they do draft Abdul Carter, I think that's a tell. Of which way this is going.
Let me throw this. This is why I think he'll be done.
I agree with that, Jim.
This is why I think he's not. He should be traded, and this is why I think it'll eventually get done. You guys have all said, hey, Kevin Stefanski has gotten a raw deal, right? There's lots of people who, when you talk about the Browns,
he's not blameless. I don't want to make it sound like he's the victim here. He's not blameless.
There's a lot of people. There are some Stefanski fans and supporters who say, look what he had to deal with. And that's one of their reasons that they say he should stay on and give him this opportunity. So if that's of the thought process, think about it this way. Are you doing Kevin Stefanski any favors by going into the season and Myles Garrett holding out?
No, you're handcuffing him.
Because when the camp comes around, the first question last year was, Deshaun Watson, 100 times.
Yeah.
Now you're coming back, Myles Garrett. And if it goes into the season and your defense doesn't play well, or you get both raced a few times, people are going to pounce on that. You are actually giving him another headache that he has to deal with when you're trying to figure out, hey, I got a young quarterback or a bridge quarterback. I got to still figure out this offense. I'm calling the plays again. I'm trying to keep the team together. And now you got the Myles Garrett thing happening in real time. I don't know if that's a thing that Kevin Stefanski wants to deal with when I already got Deshaun Watson. I still got to answer questions about that and now I got Myles Garrett. If
you draft Abdul Carter, you've at least got the hope that you might have Myles' replacement already on the roster.
And you'll have to answer that question. Did you draft Abdul Carter to be Myles Garrett's replacement?
Ask Andrew. I didn't draft anybody. I just coach.
Look, this is all happening This is all happening on the year you got to perform. That is.
Are the Browns going to be on Hard Knocks next year?
I'll put them on. I'll make them do it.
I want the Browns on.
I don't think they have to make them do it because they just did it.
They just did it.
Right.
They're exempt.
But
Wait, they didn't just do it.
Yeah, they were on the AFC Hard Knocks.
So that in season one counts?
I think so.
I would assume so.
Oh, I don't think it does. I think the rules are different for training camp.
I don't even think they do training camp anymore. Do they? They didn't do it last year.
Yeah, they did.
No, they did. Oh, yeah, they did.
Yeah,
The Bears. The Bears were the training camp.
Yeah.
They were?
Yeah. Oh, that's a wildly popular series.
If you draft Shedeur Sanders, you got Myles Garrett holding out, and Deshaun Watson still on the team, boy.
Yeah, but Hard Knocks,
boy.
I didn't even know that they did a preseason one last year, a training camp one last year.
Yeah, they did.
But
they're definitely going to continue it. It's a wildly successful series.
But I feel like Hard Knocks plays ball with the teams more now than they did.
Yeah.
Yes, they give them more control over editing.
I
think.
You're right.
Yes, they 1,000% do because there is some stuff this year I was like, really? That's what, like, they didn't even mention Deshaun.
Yeah.
Name didn't even come up.
Yeah. We're still waiting on Cynthia Fredlund to join
I
us.
just texted her and it said that she's got notification silenced. I reached out to her 2 weeks ago. She said, yeah, I can absolutely do Monday.
Yeah, we sent her the link, so we'll...
Did she reply after you had sent her the link?
Not this morning when I sent her the link.
Oh, she didn't get a link until this morning?
Yeah, Steve had been communicating with her, and I was told to send her the link on Monday morning, so I sent her the link.
Okay, because I'm out of that loop and I was in Florida, I have no idea where you guys are in terms of... I just know that 2 weeks ago she replied to me and she said, yeah, I'd love to come on.
And I just was told this morning to send her the link. So we're working on getting her, so let's pivot.
But we did get confirmation, like, yes, I can come on from her outside of my confirmation, right?
I assume Steve talked to her, yes. I assume there was...
Okay, yeah, I would assume that as well. I don't know what happened.
Steve, I know you're watching. You've texted us 12 times already. Text us back and let us know that you did talk to Cynthia to confirm this before.
I know you're watching, dog. Stop playing.
But let me do a FanDuel read. We'll talk a little about the WNBA, and as soon as Cynthia joins us, we will jump right into that. But when the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on the action than with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you missed the opening tip-off or want to bet on a fourth-quarter comeback, you can stay in on the action. And if you're looking for bigger payouts, you can combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if their first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com/UCSS to join today. That is FanDuel.com/UCSS for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. It could be the official sports betting partner of the WNBA in Cleveland in 2028 because according to the Sports Business Journal, Cleveland has won the bid for the 16th WNBA franchise, according to @TomFriendWriter. According to the Sports Business Journal report, Cleveland paid a record $250 million for their bid to bring a team back to the city for the 2028 season. Jason, it's a good move for the city of Cleveland, and do you think it should still be the Cleveland Rockers when the team returns in 28?
Yeah, bring the name back. Why not? I think the rock and roll theme is a little bit overplayed in Cleveland.
I do too.
But
you always have to have a guitar in every logo.
Yeah, got to have a guitar in every logo.
Everything.
But
everything.
Because that was their original name, yeah, bring it back.
See, I'm different than you are on this. First of all, I just don't know about WNBA basketball in Cleveland. It failed miserably here.
It did, but it's a different climate
I
now.
know it is. Now, if you get a Caitlin Clark,
yeah,
who, by the way, is a free agent after the 27th season.
100%.
Hey, hold on. What kind of draft rules they got?
Well,
how is Caitlin
3 years?
Clark?
She'll be a free agent after her 4-year contract, G, which would be...
those 4 years.
So she played this year. She has 3 more years.
3 more seasons, okay.
And then she'll be a free agent.
I'm not even going to pretend to have any idea how WNBA
I was like,
scales
what?
work.
Well, she'll break the bank,
I guarantee.
sure.
I mean, there is not an owner who will outspend Dan. Like, he'll pay whatever.
So maybe
Dan
Dan said, I'm going to get a team and I'm going to get Caitlin, and that's the end of that.
To my knowledge, and
there are limits, right?
I'm 97.5% sure.
I am too.
Take this with... I believe there is a max contract you can pay.
Right. And I'm sure that the team holds her rights and
has some sort of an advantage to keeping her rights.
Yeah. Like
Dan's owning this team?
Yeah, this is Dan Gilbert. One quick thing. Cynthia said she's dealing with something. She'll be on shortly.
Okay, perfect.
So she's probably in the queue soon.
I mean, for the love of God, please don't make a clip saying UCS is saying Caitlin Clark is coming here in 2028.
No. I'm just saying it lines up nicely.
Look, I agree. I do agree that it's a different climate around women's professional basketball now than when the team failed the first time. The reason that I would just have chosen a different name is you failed once with that name.
But did anybody remember?
Well, it's just, I just think it's the stank, of being a loser, I just think that you want to, there's a part of me, and I know people will go nuts when I say this. Mm-hmm. There's a part of me that wished the Browns would have just gone to Baltimore, the Baltimore Browns, and then we get a fresh, clean start, and whatever voodoo karma that we have to swallow is exercised from us.
Yeah.
Now that didn't happen, and we're the Browns, and we're orange and brown, and it's ugly, but we love it, and that it is what it is. And we're, I just would think that, do you really want to put Cleveland Rockers on your letterhead?
I don't think it's that big of a deal. I like nostalgia. I wish the Houston Oilers would come back. I'm glad the Hornets returned to Charlotte. I'd love to see the Seattle Supersonics again as an expansion team in the.
Who knows? We may.
I'd love that.
I think if the NBA expands again, Seattle will be the first team to get it, and they may be the Supersonics.
Maybe second. Vegas will be one.
This cannot be understood.
You think? Because the Vegas pro sports teams aren't killing it.
Yeah, the money's there.
It cannot be understated. There was a time where female sports was almost done. When women's sports was done. It was they had a little Danica Patrick era, and then I had the Michelle Wee in golf, but those were more individual sports. This cannot be understated. Caitlin Clark just got expansion popping. If she is not in the league, do you believe that there will be expansion?
No, because the league was on life support.
Yes.
Yes. And mainly the team. WNBA exists because the NBA has been its life raft for years.
The NBA has funded it.
And once things got tight at the NBA, they said, "Guys, the gravy train is over. We can't keep doing this." And then along came Caitlin Clark.
Listen, I think,
and Angel Reese too. It's not a one-person thing.
That was the magic and bird of women.
Yes,
and it was
they
played 4 years. They went back and forth. Listen. I mean, it's miraculous, man. There are people that they got back into the sport because it was what Iowa was doing was crazy. I'm a grown man, and I got plenty of things to do. I could be on YouTube. I was glued to the Iowa Hawkeyes watching these young ladies play. It was like the finals or something.
Yeah.
And to me, she should get all the money she can get because the Rockers would not be here if it wasn't for them two people.
But here's the thing, I hope that some of the cattiness is over because they can kill this as quickly as it came. The reception
that's for sure.
was so ridiculous last year. I got sick of seeing it and reading it and all of it because of the
left off the Olympic team.
Just all of it. Just both sides were obnoxious on the whole thing.
They were.
And if they want to keep behaving that way, they're going to kill this thing before it really gets rolling. Yeah. So hopefully now that both players have been in the league for a year, hopefully a lot of that crap can just die off and go away,
now,
and it can just be
in
basketball.
Fairness to the women, because it makes it sound like the women are being trivial
that was
and
us.
catty.
No, it was the players.
For a little,
it was us too.
But for a little perspective here, go back to 1995-4 when Tiger came into the sport.
Yeah,
I watched. Why, I don't know. It came up on my feed, and I remember the interview, but I said, you know what? I remember this was really bad. I'm going to watch it again. It was cringeworthy.
Fuzzy?
Curtis Strange. No, Fuzzy was over the top. Because he thought he was being funny and cute. Curtis Strange was doing an interview with Tiger Woods after he had made his PGA debut. And he said, it was really contentious. He said, I want to ask you, you were asked about coming into the tournament, what your goals were. Do you remember what you said? And he said, yeah, I want to win it. And he goes, that's kind of naive of you, don't you think? There's 75 other grown men out here that have done this forever and made it our living for 10, 20, 30 years. To come out and say that you want to win it. And he goes, well, look, Curtis, no disrespect, but if I don't think I'm going to win a tournament, why would I enter it?
Yeah.
I'm not here to be second.
He's right.
He was 1,000% right. And after a 3-minute contentious back and forth, Curtis Strange actually said to him, "You'll learn. You'll learn. You're young. You're naive." And it was cringeworthy to watch.
Yeah.
And I remember it because I was covering, I lived in Columbus and I covered Muirfield when he had his big coming out. And I remember he got a chilly reception from the other players. I would just watch his interaction on the greens and with other players at events.
LeBron will tell you that too.
LeBron did too, because that no one wants, if you've been established but here's the thing. A rising tide raises all boats.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Those guys were making $180,000 grand prize when they won a PGA Tour event. When I covered the Muirfield in Tiger's first year, within a matter of years, the top prize was $1 million at least at every event. Why? Because their ratings went from 1.2 on a sleepy Saturday afternoon to 5.8.
Yep.
And everybody got paid. And the WNBA can do the same thing if they embrace her and don't repel against her.
I see more people that be in the WNBA commercials than I ever see in my life. Like, I think the whole Las Vegas team is on one of the commercials. They got Kia. They've been doing other commercials. I'm like, man, and I did not see that before. Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark. So look, man, at the end of the day, you benefiting from it. They all benefit from her being a person that people want to come watch and see.
Yes. So, I hope they learn that, because Jay, to your point, it got very tiresome.
Yeah.
And
I think it will. I think now that it's sort of like with Tiger and LeBron, once you make it through the bumps and once you realize they belong and what they can do for everybody else, everything's sort of settled down. Right. Hopefully. Once
they figure it out that you're nice.
Do you want are you okay with the Rockers?
Yeah, but I mean, I
just wanted something a little new, fresh, creative.
I think there's a lot of people who are not into, they're not as learned as like guys who do sports for a living. I'm sure that there's a lot of people that didn't even know that you had a WNBA team. It's a lot of newer.
Oh, from the past. Yeah, you're probably right on that. The younger people
when did it leave?
03 maybe?
03.
That's a guess.
Yeah.
Okay, so it was when it
right around
started
the time
in
LeBron
98 to 03.
It was when the league first launched.
And it was bad league wide. It really was. But it was really bad here. It was really bad here. I do have a list of names that were not considered. It's actually just one. Things that they absolutely wouldn't consider, and it was Indians. For some reason, they never considered that.
Nah, yeah. I wonder why, man. It's kind of wild, man. Yeah.
I saw a stat. And
can you imagine though if they college?
It actually looks like Cynthia just popped in the system, Jay. So let me just get a mic check on her. We'll bring Cynthia Fredlund.
Great.
But you got to talk for 1 second.
I hope it works though. I really do. I hope it works.
I think it will.
I do think the ratings were up last year. The attendance was up last year. I hope that wasn't a one-year bump.
I don't think it is.
I think they've got to showcase.
Think
the
about
Angel Reese's and the Caitlin Clarks of the world.
I did a hit with Nick last night on Sports Sunday. And this came up. We were talking about this. If the expansion fee is $250 million, think about that for a minute. The Dolans paid $323 million for the Indians. Wow. And now a WNBA expansion team's going for $250. Think about that. That was 20. What? How many years of the Dolans?
Well, I never questioned Dan's financial acumen. Yeah. Although I was kind of a little leery when he bought the casino, and I didn't know that was ever going to. And now he's out of that.
Yeah.
So I
thought that was oversaturation. They put too many of them.
I agree with that. And but usually when Dan makes a move financially, usually it turns out wonderfully. But that one.
Just saw a documentary on that. Tower City, how they bought it, and then cashed out of it quick.
Well, he realized quickly it was a losing venture and got out. Yeah. So at least he made the quick decision to pivot. Okay, Cynthia's in. Cynthia, I was worried about you. Are you okay? Everything good?
Oh yeah. I have a friend who's going through some treatments, so I'm trying to head up there. And it's all good. It's all good. I'm very glad to be here though.
Where are you right now? You're not in LA.
I'm actually at the Burbank Airport in LA. So for a few more minutes, I'm in LA. Yeah.
You're flying but you're flying to a cold climate because you have a coat on.
I am. Yes. It's actually kind of chilly here. I know you lose once you get out of the Midwest, you really lose your hardiness. So now I'm a big punk, and it's 50 degrees, and I'm like, it's freezing. What's going on?
We can show you the 3 feet of blowing snow outside. If you would like.
it's 14 here. We got a lot of snow, so. Hey, listen, thank you for making time for us, especially when I know you got something that you're dealing with, and we're sorry about that. I want to just start right in. First of all, I want to give you congratulations. Before the season started, your Super Bowl pick was Philly to beat Kansas City. So, we all make these ridiculous picks, and we never get them right, but you did. So, congratulations to you. And I know you use a lot of analytics and all the NFL discussions that you bring to the public. We really want to know from you what the Browns should do at number 2. I know you don't pontificate and try to guess, but what should they do based on the analytics?
Well, I mean, if you're looking for wins fast, I think right now the best things to possibly do would be the quarterback position. However, depending on how things shake out with free agency, which is a very important piece of the puzzle, if someone leaves that happens to be a really good pass rusher, perhaps you have to look at edge. Obviously, top 5 positions, you have to do them in order. So quarterback, left tackle, pass rusher, your corner, and your wide receiver, and you can flip-flop 2 and 3 and flip-flop 4 and 5. That's where we have to focus. So, there's some of those are already ticked off, but there's a few here who, potentially Abdul Carter for me is probably, the second best player overall in this entire draft. So being able to get him even to complement that other pass rusher that, is really epic would be helpful. And if that pass rusher isn't there, he would be a nice way to start building that defensive front.
Cynthia, I see you on your board. You have Travis Hunter as the number 1 player overall. When you talk about Travis Hunter, it seems to be a lot of people are torn over whether he's a better corner, whether he's a better receiver, and just how will people use him in the league. From your understanding and you looking at the numbers, what do you think he'll be best at, or what do you think he is best at?
I actually really like him as a wide receiver. I understand that that's maybe not the most, most people say defense and corner, and of course he forecasts to be epic as that as well. But sometimes when you can catch the ball, it just becomes very, very, very valuable. And as we're seeing in the league right now, the market for wide receivers is huge. So it's probably better for him from a pocketbook standpoint too. But either way, he'd be really great.
When you say Abdul Carter, that you think that Abdul Carter would be the second overall pick, obviously it seems like you've sort of classified this group of quarterbacks the same way everyone else has. We keep hearing that it's a weak draft. They're thin at that position, particularly when you compare it to last year's where Bo Nix is the 6th quarterback taken and turns the Broncos around in an instant. Is there a world where, and what quarterbacks would be available if the Browns do go Abdul Carter and still want to address the quarterback at the 2nd or 3rd round, who is going to be left there? And of those that you think will be available, who should the Browns quarterback in the later rounds if they do decide to go Abdul Carter?
So I can't do free agency here. I guess, look, unfortunately for the Senior Bowl, some people from some schools down in the South maybe rose their stock a little bit too high. I was kind of hoping to see, it's an Ole Miss situation, be able to follow Jackson Dart. I think is a really epic prop, but I don't think he's going to be available later on. So that's an interesting one for me. I really like him a lot. I think he has a lot of upside, but this is a flavor quarterback draft. And what flavor are you looking for? I don't know if I think anyone fully formed day one is going to be epic. I don't think there is a Jaden Daniels in this class. So which flavor are you looking for? I mean, I think Cam Ward's probably the most ready-made. I really like Shedeur Sanders' makeup. I had a chance to talk to him at Honors, and that guy he's a really fun prospect. But every team needs a good O-line, so it will help. Whatever quarterback gets the best O-line, that's the one I think has the best season.
When you're talking about Shedeur, there's obviously been a lot of talk with Cleveland and Shedeur. You have him 9th to the Saints. You said your model really likes him. You like his accuracy. So why do you think he falls that far, and why not Shedeur to Cleveland at 2?
I mean, you could certainly take as far as what he kind of deserves from how great he is or could be, Shedeur certainly deserves the complete upside kind of treatment. However, and quarterback obviously being such a premium position. However, when I'm looking at the opportunity here for, Shedeur to go to a place where he would make the most sense and to factor in free agency, I think the Browns may be best served, I don't know, looking at a free agent and then building in other places, because the positional variability of, getting this is a weird draft class. There are not very many good offensive linemen compared to normal, and it's a great defensive front class. So it's kind of about how do you want to strategically build. And I'm looking at this. I think they have a better chance of building agency and winning this season than they do if they kind of shoot the moon for quarterback and not. Again, it's not to say that Shedeur isn't worth a second overall pick. Yeah. It's just how do you maximize for next season.
So who do you like at quarterback? Because you mentioned free agency a couple times. Is there one earmark that you think fits the Browns well?
I mean, I think, look, like there's a lot of ways that you could slice this. This is a team that I'm looking at Nick Chubb's return being really impactful this season. I think, Sam Darnold, if he hits the market, I think Sam has a lot of upside and a lot of potential to really, he's learned a lot of things in different places, and that could be, I think he'd be a good fit kind of everywhere. Not for forever, but for at least the season.
It's interesting. How do you think a Kevin Stefanski and Sam Darnold hookup would work? I just think that I think that would work. Again, short term, I wouldn't want that to be the long-term answer. Right. But I think in the interim, when you're trying to win games and trying to rebuild everywhere else as well, that seems like that could be the easiest off-ramp for that plan.
I think it's the easiest. Sam is one of the nicest guys in the entire league. He gets along with all of his teammates. Justin Jefferson at the Pro Bowl couldn't have said more nice things about him. He's just he's been a lot of different places, has a lot of different experience. He's kind of like that, journeyman who's people just like him. So I think there's a lot of positive with him in that capacity.
Well, the one thing that I think everybody agrees on is that it's not a great quarterback class. You mentioned that you like Dart, but he's not going to be around. There's a scenario where the Browns do trade Myles Garrett to get draft capital, and it's possible they get 26 picks, but it's also possible they could move up into the late first round with a 25th draft pick. If Dart is gone and you're back around at the top of the second round, is there a guy that you think would be a good fit with the Browns that could be a good quarterback in a Kevin Stefanski offense? And I say all that to, I don't want to mention any names because I'm mostly curious to see if you think anybody in there fits that bill.
I mean, I'm getting into, the combine will tell me a lot because for me, personality type will factor in a ton here, and that's really what the combine's for. We already know all the on-field stuff, but all of the different interviews that go on in the next 2 weeks, that really does matter. So I'll come back to you after the combine, and I'll be less of a mess with this, and I'll give you my full rundown of personalities. But I couldn't think more highly of Kevin Stefanski and his ability to be a teacher and a leader. So I think he deserves someone who is just an epic communicator, and that's the one thing that I will learn over the next week at the combine, who can communicate really well and who can kind of absorb what's being taught to them. So I reserve my red on the guys that are maybe not quite the traits guys. I'll come back to you and I'll let you know everything inside from the combine on that.
Very good. I was kind of throwing bait out there, hoping you would say something about Will Howard, but I get it. I think.
Listen, he's on my list. I don't know. I know about his, on the field stuff, but I haven't seen enough of him. Yeah. I don't know his personality well enough yet to make that full assessment. And I think Kevin Stefanski just deserves a really kind, good listener. As fun as Jameis Winston, but also has the potential to just be molded and shaped in the way only the young guys, the rookies, can.
I'm not sure anyone can be as fun as Jameis Winston. That's what I learned about him from this time here.
That's true.
Hey, listen, Cynthia, thanks for taking time out for us. I know you got a lot going on today.
I'm so sorry. I apologize.
No, all good.
Sometimes life calls, man, but I promise I'll come back after the combine. I'll give you my full rundown, and we'll see if Will Howard has the personality that Kevin Stefanski and the Cleveland Browns fans deserve.
Sounds great,
Cynthia. By the way,
Cynthia.
Chomp is. I had a lot of fun at the Pro Bowl with Chomp. He and I, we're really close now. So.
Very good.
The mascots,
All right. Good to know. Thanks, Cynthia.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Awesome. That was Cynthia Fredlund. You can check her out on Twitter at @CFreeland.
The next time that we have her on, I thought we could go into the draft stuff this time, but the next time we have her on, I really want to talk to her about the value, the position value that she ranks. I don't know what you guys make of that.
I was going to ask
but there's a lot there. And I love how she said 2 and 3 are interchangeable and 4 or 5 are interchangeable. But I don't think many would disagree that those are the 5.
I would ask her, from what Saquon Barkley did this year, because there's some really good running backs in this class.
This is some really deep class.
I mean, I think that there are going to be 2 first-round running backs taken.
There very well could be.
Genty is worth every penny. I watch him, and this dude.
Were you scared at all about his lack of production in the playoff game?
No,
because that scared me. I'll be honest.
I mean, he's playing against. I mean, he's at Boise State. I mean, it ain't Boise State is. I would say the Boise State is a step up from a mid-major. Like
I know, but once he got against that top caliber defense, he looked very ordinary.
Well, listen, I've always said running the football is a numbers game, right? When you play, if he goes to a team that, has some balance, they're not going to be able to put 12 guys in the box to stop him,
yeah.
right?
Against Boise State,
right.
who you have to
stop. You know
stop.
what it is. I don't know who you got a receiver. You have to beat me.
No, that's true.
So I want to see if the running back position has kind of evolved a little more. Because, look, we were at one point trying to diminish the receiver position. About 6 years ago, people say, you can have one receiver, but I'm not going to pay a receiver that much money. And then you started seeing teams draft a receiver and get one in free agency. You start to see teams with 2 really good receivers. And so now it looks like that was more of a wave. But I'm interested to see how many running backs will go and if there are going to be some first round.
Well, when we have her on again, we can talk about her value added. She's a mathematician. She's a brilliant woman.
Junkie.
And she has these complicated formulas for value added. And I've had conversations with her about that before, but it'd be cool, I think, for our audience to hear exactly how she does that. And it's embraced by a lot of folks in the NFL.
Before we get to our next topic, which does involve the Browns rookie class from last season, a quick reminder that tomorrow it's Cavs and Coffee 2.0. Jason and I do an Ultimate Cavs show, 8 a.m. live before I come into the office here. We are talking our top second half of the season storylines for the Cleveland Cavaliers. You guys liked the 8 a.m. start last week, so we are running it back. So grab a cup of coffee, sit down, and talk some Cavs with Jason and I at 8 a.m. Hopefully his son doesn't miss the bus tomorrow morning, which means he'll be ready at 8 on the dot. But the plan is to go at 8 a.m. tomorrow morning.
Don't you love that?
On the UCSS channel.
We're coming off a 4-day weekend, so there's a chance somebody misses the bus tomorrow. First day back after a long weekend.
Yeah, don't you love that?
Yeah.
Dad, I missed the bus.
Yeah, it was a slow. I told Mike, 8 o'clock's fine. Kids get on the bus at 7:30. It's fine. And then at 7:45, I'm behind the bus peeling home. So,
the Browns did not have a first-round pick in the 2024 draft, and this was the rookie class that Andrew Berry and company came away with from last season's NFL draft. They took Mike Hall with the 54th pick, Zach Zinter at 85. Jamari Thrash at 156, Nathaniel Watson in the 6th round at 206, Miles Harden and Jawan Briggs in the 7th round. And over the weekend, NFL.com came out with its rookie class rankings, ranking all 32 NFL rookie classes. And as you can see,
I'm sorry.
How's that not an F?
Number 30.
I'm
they
sorry.
gave no Fs.
You know what's
They're
funny
the
to
only
me?
team with a D-.
I'm sorry.
What's funny to me about that is the other teams picked so late in the draft that they didn't have a chance to make a splash with the first-round pick either. The Bills, the Chiefs, the teams that are winning, making playoff runs. The Browns made the playoffs, didn't have a first-round draft pick, but we almost had the second instance of someone throwing up on this show when you put up the Browns 24 draft class. Bull got sick on opening day a couple of years ago. I almost got sick when I look at that group. That is unbelievable. And I know it's 1 year, and some of those guys might turn it around. Mike Hall was easily the best player.
Yeah.
He was unavailable for the first part of the season because of an arrest or charges.
Then he got injured the last game of the season.
Yeah, a bad injury. But everything else, you look at that and you're like, oh my God,
now,
how is Andrew Berry still here?
In fairness, a lot of the mid to late round picks take time to develop. A lot of them, some of them hit right away. Some of them you find a surprise in the 4th and 5th round, and they're impact players.
Puka Nacua.
Yep. But a lot of them are developmental guys. The part that's disappointing is Mike Hall and Zach Zinter. Those two, you would think, were going to be impact guys earlier than later.
Yeah.
And we've already talked about Mike Hall had a lot of legal issues, and then he got hurt. Zinter was an absolute disaster last year.
He was coming. In fairness to Zinter, he was coming off a terrible injury.
He was, but he had a ton of experience at Michigan, and he was expected to be. Like, I think they expected him to be a starter in year 2.
Yeah.
At one of those guard spots, and that just didn't happen. Now, also, the Browns had dreadful offensive line coaching to the point where they fired the offensive line coach the day after the season, and Mike Vrabel became the pseudo offensive line coach during the season. Maybe new coaching will put Zinter on a path trajectory back up.
Right.
But those are the 2 picks that I think you expected to have some sort of immediate impact that they didn't get. The rest of the guys, a lot of them could be looked at as developmental. You're not going to get much out of them in year 1, and hopefully you would get more out of them in year 2 and going forward. So maybe there'll be a surprise there that we just haven't paid a lot of attention to, who will then get opportunities in the future. But those 2 guys particularly, that's a disappointing spot at this point.
It don't even look like Zinter could play.
No.
It don't even look like. I mean, he was getting drop kicked. He was getting punched in the face.
And also,
are you worried though? Or maybe I am cutting him slack because of the injury he was coming off.
And also,
it takes a year. We talked about this, G.
Go back and look at the schedule. Look at when Wyatt got hurt and when Zinter got thrown in. He got thrown in against some beast defensive tackles in the NFC East.
Yeah.
Like, he got thrown right into the fire.
I'm not giving up on him.
And I'm not saying give up on him, but it was a really, really disappointing rookie year for the expectations that they had coming in for him. But there was a lot working against him, again, with the coaching, with the level of competition he got. I mean, you could not pick a worse time for when Wyatt got hurt. If you go back and look, I think they had to play the Commanders, the Giants. Like, there was a lot of top defensive tackles.
They played the Raiders, I think.
That he got thrown into.
And just the injury, too. I mean, I'm just going to cut him some slack.
Hey, I'm going to tell you this, man. Andrew Berry and his defensive line picks, man.
How about wide receiver picks?
Man, I mean, the D-line is – think about the people that get in trouble. Malik McDowell.
Oh,
that was free agent.
Yeah.
That was a free agent, right?
Yeah.
Perrion Winfrey.
Yep.
Not a good draft pick.
Mike Hall Jr. They come in the first year and get in trouble. Then the guys that can't even get on the field, the Tommy Toe guys can't get on the field. The Siaki Ikas can't get on the field.
Yep.
The guy, Jawan Briggs.
Astonishing he's still here.
I mean, he's whiffing.
It's astonishing.
Briggs actually had a couple nice plays in that Week 17 game. I know it was Week 17, Week 18, but he at least
Week
showed
17,
a little something.
the Week 17 game.
No, I know.
Yeah.
But again, like, these are the developmental guys. Like, you can't pick a guy in the 6th round and then kill him for not
I know,
being
but
in the
in fairness, we're doing apples to apples here because every other draft class that was graded ahead of the Browns also had 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th.
Yeah, but remember at this point last year where we're talking about, well, there's no spots on the 53. The Browns have a loaded 53, and they can't take all these guys. They're not going to be able to fit them on the 53 because there's only 2 or 3 spots
Life
open.
comes at you fast.
So I know, but I'm saying we can't come back now and say, well, the absolute disaster when a year ago we're saying there's only 2 or 3 spots available. A lot of now, if another year from now we go back and look at this list and none of these guys have made an impact, that's
well.
really
Here's the
bad.
thing: he can't be anywhere near this. He's got to be upper 10.
Well, especially
next year to
you've
keep
got
his job.
2 picks in the top 33.
Well, exactly.
Can
That's
I
what I'm
give you
saying.
guys-
Like last year, they had no draft capital in
Right.
part because of a deal he made. So he bears some of the responsibility for that.
Where was Mike Hall drafted? Like
50?
Okay.
Yeah.
I will say this: the team that ranked number 1 in these rankings,
Who was number 1?
the Washington Commanders, who had the number 2 pick in last year's draft,
Yeah.
which is where the Browns are currently sitting this year. If
And
you're
they hit
looking to
on all
spin
their
it-
picks, or not all of them, but they
No,
had
they
some hits.
Look at this draft class: Daniels in the 1st round.
Yep.
Jerzon Newton, who had 11 starts at defensive tackle. Mike Sanistril, who started 16 games at nickelback. Ben Sinnott, the tight end, who was their backup tight end. They got a offensive tackle named Brandon Coleman, who started 12 games. Luke McCarthy played in all 17 games at receiver.
Wow.
And their 7th-round pick appeared in 17 games, 2 starts, but had 6 sacks. So,
Bro,
there you go.
that is
Wow. 7th round pick had 6
that's
sacks.
that's your spin zone on how to get excited for next year. Is if you have a draft class like that, and they had the number 2 pick, the Browns had the number 2 pick this year.
You got to get it
You can
right,
see the
man.
path.
But the people that were there in Washington got fired, and then these new picks were taken by new people.
Yeah.
Gee, I'm trying to find something to feel good about, okay? I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just trying to feel good about something in life.
Listen, this ain't going to be that year. I told people, y'all can't get mad at me. G is drinking the Kool-Aid. 4,500. You're not getting me. No. This is bad. Matter of fact, he got a D- on this, and we can still keep talking. How y'all like that DTR pick right now? That don't look like it's hitting. You had Jed Wills, top 10. That's bust. You had Greg Newsome. Is he a first-round corner? That looks crazy. Martin Emerson was the thing that was saving you, and he took a major step back. Zach Zenner didn't play. Like we're not to talk about the David Bells of the world or the Anthony Schwartzes of the world. Like, I'm struggling to find regular guys that are balling.
Here's what really bothers me about myself. I knew of Anthony Schwartz. I knew what he was in college. I knew he had world-class speed. When they draft these guys and Thrash and all, Bell, I'm like, hey, Bell's Big Ten receiver of the year, man. Yeah. This dude, and it's because I've given gravitas to people that get a paycheck for assessing this talent. And then I'm like, yeah, but David Bell wasn't that good. And then Anthony Schwartz, I got all excited about him. I was telling everybody, we need a burner. Somebody's got to take the top off defense. He's our guy. He couldn't catch a cold. And then I'm like, man, they missed again. And then with Thrash, I looked at, hey, man, I like this guy's resume. And I also make the mistake of looking at the highlight reel that they show.
Yeah.
So they poured through 5,000 plays to get the 18 that they're going to show you on the highlight reel. And I'm like, this dude can separate.
Man, this guy's running away from people.
Can catch. Man. And I talked myself into the fact that they know what they're doing and they got the right guy. And then I see Puka Nacua come out here and light the league on fire. Took a match, napalm the whole league, and we got Thrash, and we got Schwartz, and we got Bell.
Yep.
The Browns, I'm gonna let you know right now, this is not refutable. The Cleveland Browns have never developed a wide receiver in their life. Where's the number one receiver?
Well, isn't Paul Warfield count?
Yes, he counts.
Webster Slaughter.
But you got to go back to the.
But you got to go back to the black and white era.
Yeah, you do.
Webster Slaughter was the 80s.
Webster was a first-round pick.
I tried to put
out of San Diego State, I think.
I tried to put together a top 5 receiving class in a Browns video.
Good luck.
And it was a bunch of guys that looked like the Three Stooges, the old black and white. Max Speed.
First of all, when your leading receiver guy, the best pass catcher you ever had is Ozzie Newsome.
And he's a tight end.
That's kind
Gary Barnidge had a great year one year. Gary Barnidge had a top 10 year.
I know he did.
For your Cleveland Browns.
Didn't he get like 1 million concussions though?
Yeah, and just was like, I'm done. Like this is the problem, man. This is what makes people very skeptical about them just going and handing that slip at the podium. Jason,
yeah, you should be skeptical.
It's confusing. I don't know.
Every draft pick this year, you have every right to go,
man. Let me ask you this, and take 264 full here. Let's just go through. We'll put a bow on this with this. Mike Hall Jr., if the scale is bona fide Pro Bowl level starter, regular starter, rotation guy, or never going to be a quality player. Let's go through the 6 guys. Where do you think Mike Hall falls?
I think he is a legitimate bona fide starter.
He's a starter.
And I think there is a world where he becomes a Pro Bowler.
Totally agree on that. Zinter.
Hold
on, Ant.
I feel Zinter he's a swing guy. He'll play center.
Best case scenario, or what's most likely, or
what's most likely for him? I think he could be a regular starter.
He could start like guard.
You ain't got to be that good at guard.
That's exactly it. There's a lot less responsibility at guard than there is at tackle.
And I think he can be a legitimate starter. Thrash, no.
Special teams.
Special
teams at best.
Watson.
Special teams.
Harden.
Dillards.
Kaufman's.
Wait, did you just say Dillards?
He didn't even say Neiman Marcus. Like, nah. That's like.
So if it was a fast food restaurant, where would he slot in? Would he be like Cane's?
I'll give him Chipotle.
Long John Silver's.
And
Dillard's.
Briggs.
Starbucks.
Practice squad.
I think
Starbucks.
I think Briggs can play. I'm actually going to be honest on that one.
No, I don't mean to be.
No disrespect. To all these guys, it's very hard to make the NFL. I don't want to feel like I'm disparaging nobody's name.
That's exactly.
Because they got people.
We're just having fun.
It takes you got to be
to even
thousands
get drafted.
Like these dudes are exponentially better than I was ever was at everything.
You have to be an unbelievable athlete.
You're right about that.
But I'm just having fun.
On the scale of,
but we're comparing them to other great athletes.
When you say Hall of Fame, like I'm thinking of Warren Sapp John Randalls and Aaron Donalds and guys.
None of these guys are going to be mistaken for that.
No. So that's the problem, man. And so I wouldn't have a problem. That's why I'm so against trading down, because them trading down gives them a smaller percentage chance of these guys being good, even if it's in the top 10.
It gives them more darts, though. Gee, they got more darts.
They just
but it's still a dark room.
It's dark.
You're
as
still
hell
throwing
in there.
them blindfolded.
No flashlight. and look, I'd rather Kevin Stefanski. I would rather Kevin Stefanski have 1,000% control over the quarterback. If Kevin Stefanski comes in and says, "Hey, Andrew Berry, you ain't won Executive of the Year. I won Coach of the Year twice. I trump you on this one. If I find a quarterback that I like, I don't care if y'all don't like him.
They need to lean heavily on Kevin's suggestion for the next quarterback.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And back to the earlier point, what if they come back and say Dylan Gabriel, Jackson Dart? That's who we like the best.
I don't care. Draft him.
That's who we like the best.
Draft him.
So that's why I'm saying I don't think it's a slam dunk that you have to take him at 2. I mean, if they take Dylan Gabriel at 2,
no, there'll be a riot.
But that's why
that's wild.
But I'm just throwing a name out.
No,
I
right.
don't think they're going to take Dylan. But I'm just saying, why does it have to be Cam or Shedeur? What if there's another quarterback that they look at and say, I know no one else is talking about him.
Well, they should take the guy they love.
You got to stand on it.
And I remember talking to Cavs when I was covering the NBA, who said, I don't care what Chad Ford, that's why I keep saying, I'm paying you. What do you think?
Right.
It doesn't matter what the magazine says.
What
do you think?
Remember this. You talk about the Cavs. Remember the year after LeBron and them left, and the Cavs got the number 1 pick, and there was no consistent. People don't remember. It was this close between Derek Williams and Kyrie
100%.
Irving.
There were people within the Cavs who wanted Derek Williams and Brandon Knight
because Kyrie Irving had played 9 games.
9 games at Duke.
Nobody saw him.
Yeah.
And as soon as they started playing, it was like, oh, okay.
Well, you know what?
I know why they picked you now. Good job.
When you go back, I laugh too, because you're right, that was a question, but that's as laughable to me as the question, and this was the universal question. It was on the cover of Sports Illustrated. Manning, when Peyton Manning came out of the draft, or Ryan Leaf.
Yeah.
Ryan Leaf.
They did a commercial.
He was real good, though. I saw Ryan Leaf was good, man.
I know, but now, in retrospect, that whole debate was silly, just like the Kyrie Irving debate was silly. Even though it was 9 games at Duke, you could watch that kid's high school tape and say, "Oh my God!"
It's something. It's there's
no player had ever been drafted coming off a season where he played less, number 1 overall, than the Cavs taking Kyrie off.
Right,
9 games, and it was like.
Well, I mean, the kids that go right from high school, but
they still played more games the year before.
Right,
you're talking about the previous
body
season.
of work previous season.
Well, hold on. Darius Garland played 5 games too 1 year, didn't he?
But he was drafted.
But he was 5th. But when they drafted Garland, I'm like, who is this dude? He had played 5 games or something because of injuries. But here's what I say: if they like Dylan Gabriel, and this may sound crazy, and they think he's the best quarterback, I'll take him at 2.
Well, it's easy to say.
Into it.
I mean, it's easy to say now. What if the Cavs had taken Giannis at 1? Everyone would have been fired the day after, but it was the right pick.
It was the right move.
What if the Browns took Lamar Jackson at 1?
Right, or
it was crazy at the time, but in hindsight, would it have been that crazy?
You should have took Patrick Mahomes over Myles Garrett.
Absolutely.
If they love Dylan Gabriel or Will Howard or Jackson Dart or whoever,
take him.
Either take him at 2, or if you trade back, use the extra ammunition to go back up and get it.
Yeah, I like that too.
Right.
There are other ways without having to force them into that hole.
I see what you. I like what you did. I like that. If the Browns really want to get aggressive, and they say, well, listen, we're gonna get one of these blue chip guys. If it's Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter, we're gonna trade this pick, but we ain't gonna trade back too far. Then we're going to take them picks and them little extra picks, or maybe it's a 2 and whatever we got, and move back into the first round and draft a quarterback. I ain't got no problem with that.
Gee, if the Browns are going to draft a quarterback and it's not at 2, it better not be at 33.
No.
Find a way to get into the first round because you get that 5th year of extra control.
Right.
The 5th year option.
That's right.
Yep.
You do not take a quarterback at 33. If you trade up to 32, like the Ravens did with Lamar,
Well, the clock is already a year in when you do that.
Say it again.
The clock is already a year in when you take one at 33.
Exactly.
Yeah, yep.
Which is why even if it's moving up 2-3 spots,
yep,
I'm all for the Browns leaving with 2 first-round picks,
and that
as opposed to waiting for 33.
Well, and that is a very likely scenario, and here's why: the teams that are picking 28, 29, 30, 31, and 32, they don't need a quarterback.
Nope.
They've got their
Hurts,
quarterback.
Mahomes,
yes.
Allen, Jaden Daniels.
Those
4 teams ain't drafting a quarterback.
So, but what would all of them love to have more than anything? A Hall of Fame pass rusher.
Yeah.
Every one of them. They're going to be better with a Hall of Fame pass rusher. So make a move with the bottom 6 and take your quarterback there.
I wouldn't mind doing it. And
are you advocating trading from 2 to 31?
No, what I'm advocating doing is trading Myles Garrett and getting picks.
Oh. All right. I thought you were trying to go.
No.
Like,
You take.
Oh my God in heaven.
You're taking Abdul Carter at number 2, and you are trading Myles Garrett to one of the best 6 teams in the NFL.
See, I don't love that. I still think you trade him to a team in the middle. You don't have to trade him to a team contending for a Super Bowl. There's other teams who think adding Myles Garrett makes them into that group, and it may not.
But
I'd rather trade him into the middle.
if you're Philly, who could use a pass rusher, they're going to lose some. If you're Kansas City, if you're Baltimore, this is like to Cynthia's point. This is number 3 on the players' value on the value added chart. This is number 3 in the league. So and everybody would love to have one.
Yeah.
Even the teams that have one would die to have 2.
Yeah.
So
there's a lot of cap implications with Miles.
That's
I know
another case.
that's what I think is the biggest hurdle to them trading him is that.
Which is why I think they have to wait till the new year.
Yeah, and
Probably.
and that kind of sucks because it'll be hanging over your head. But I don't think it's tenable. I don't think you could do it before the draft because the money, they'd have to do too many gymnastics. So that's why I think that they're playing we're not trading him and we're going to wait it out. But
in the NFL, can you do? Yeah, I don't think you can. You can't do a trade with and name a player to be named later.
No.
I don't think you can.
Not like this.
Wouldn't it be great if they did that and the player to be named later and it was agreed upon already was Myles Garrett, and then after the new year ends, they said, "Oh, we've decided it's going to be Myles Garrett."
So
Sneaky.
Is there any chance in the world that there is the Browns stay at number 2, and the player that they pick is not Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders, Travis Hunter, or Abdul Carter?
No.
I don't see.
I don't see.
There's no way.
I mean, those 4 are pretty much universally in the top 2 of everyone's mock.
It
would break the internet if
there
it
was
did.
no chance that somebody he says at
the only other name I've seen, or the only 2 names I've seen in that realm, and Cynthia actually had one in hers, is somehow either Mason Graham, the defensive tackle, or Will Campbell, the offensive tackle.
No,
they're the only other options that I've even seen that high in the draft. I can't imagine.
What if they took? Think about this. What if they? Because I went back and looked at it. Baker Mayfield. There was no consensus on Baker.
No, there was not.
Baker was going anywhere from number 1 to 25, and when they drafted Baker Mayfield, people was like, "What?" I don't know if they would do it, but is there a world where somebody says, "Well, Jackson Dart has just leapfrogged everybody"? They took Jackson Dart.
Yeah, there is a world, and here's how. You guys have said if they fall in love with the quarterback, they should take it. Whoever it is, they should take him.
Yeah.
And so the gamble that they're taking if they don't, we need a quarterback. We don't love Shedeur. We don't love Cam. The guy we love is Will Howard or Jackson Dart. And we're not sure that he would be available anywhere else. We think he could go as high as 3. So we're going to take him. And we're going to lean into it, and maybe it works out. Now, if it doesn't, you're definitely in a line for a paycheck, and it's not going to be with an NFL team.
Yeah,
you're in the unemployment line.
If you miss one, but I would have. Look, I said it earlier. I'm going to be consistent. I wouldn't have a problem with it. Hey, you said you put your stamp of approval on it.
I know, but what does that really carry? What weight does the Brown stamp of approval really carry?
It has to. That's they're in the role.
I know it's all we have, but as a fan, you're going to try to sell me that in the same manner that you tried to tell me Anthony Schwartz was going to be a game-changing receiver, David Bell was going to be a great possession receiver, that all of these guys that have missed in the last in this regime, you're going to try to tell me now that a guy that was 13th or 19th or 21st on draft
fine.
boards.
So you don't believe him. So what? You're still going to buy tickets?
I'm stuck with it.
You're still going to go.
I'm stuck.
That's why you can't worry about what the fans say.
If they hit though, Jay, that saves their job. that saves their dome, their
It's a walk-off home run in the ninth inning.
Because then you would get instant credibility because they would say, who the hell in their right mind would walk up there and pick Jackson Dart, but this guy is amazing. It'll save everything. And at that point,
you better be right.
At that point, nobody would care that Myles Garrett got traded.
Yeah.
Last thing we got to get to before we do Super Chats. Over the weekend, the amount of accusers alleging some sort of inappropriate behavior, for lack of a better word, Justin Tucker came out, bringing the number all the way up to 16 now, according to the Baltimore Banner. There's 9 more women who have accused him of inappropriate sexual behavior. We don't have to dive back into the exact details. We had that discussion earlier, but I wanted to ask you guys this question, and if we have a unanimous answer, we won't necessarily do this again, but regardless of the numbers, will the Tucker situation, the coverage around the Tucker situation, all that surrounds what's going on in Baltimore now, ever reach anywhere close to Watson's level, even like 50%, 60%, and should it? Or will this just be handled and looked at in a completely different light, considering the position and the circumstances around the contract and all that with the player it is?
I thought you were going to save this for another day because it's 12:55.
Yeah, I know, but I didn't want to look like a hypocrite.
This isn't a 5-minute conversation.
This is not a 5-minute conversation.
We go a little longer, but I didn't want us to feel like a hypocrite because anytime the Deshaun stuff came out, we made a big deal out of it.
Well, and he plays here
granted,
too.
But I didn't want it to come across as us sweeping.
It's never going to be as big a deal in Cleveland because Deshaun Watson was a Cleveland football player. Will it be bigger in Baltimore than Deshaun was? Hell yeah, it will. And he plays kicker, not quarterback. So I think a location is relative. Nationally, if you try to put that into some sort of national scope, Deshaun became a major national story for a number of months. I'm assuming that this one will too. I think the benefit that Justin Tucker has right now is timing. His story came to light at a time when we were putting NFL to bed. And so that I think matters too. Come the summer, when everybody's ramping up for NFL again, one of the big questions is, what are the Ravens going to do at kicker? So I think it will become a story. Will it become as big? If he gets up to 25 like Deshaun did, it better become as big.
And we could go a little past 1 o'clock, G, by the way. We're just going to scrap overtime. So
the reason why it's a no, it's not, is you got to take a look at it. So Deshaun Watson, they took his cases to grand juries twice. So it was like, it could have been a thing where, hey, you got to go to trial for this, which is something crazy. That's the highest level you can get. You're gonna go do some jail time. To this point, I don't think there's been any charges brought against Justin Tucker. I don't even think there's been a civil suit brought by anybody as of yet.
I think one is in the works.
Maybe one might be in the works.
I don't know.
And so
I haven't seen any civil cases.
But you're right. It's in terms of, I think someone's working on one, but in terms of filed, no, that's where we're at.
So Deshaun Watson is a quarterback. Deshaun Watson, the position is way more high profile than a kicker is.
And he just got the biggest guaranteed contract in the history of the NFL.
And they gave him the biggest contract ever. So he had every group of individuals, and Deshaun Watson didn't play well. So, you had the people in Cleveland that didn't like the fact that the picks was given up. You had people who liked Baker better and they wanted Baker to be the quarterback. You got people that, were for the whole assault thing and people didn't like what the accusations were. You got people saying, okay, he got sued that many times. He had to go to court that many times. So it's a bunch of different things that snowballed into what Deshaun Watson was, that it hasn't got to that place with the kicker. And plus, Deshaun Watson was the first. Anytime you're the first of anything, you're going to get the brunt of it. Now, people have heard about allegations about massage therapists and all that other stuff. And Justin Tucker, he came after Deshaun Watson. So the shock and awe is not there at this point. Now, will it get more and more? Yes, because the Ravens are going to have to come out and have a statement about it pretty soon after it gets to a certain number. But will it be where Deshaun Watson is? No.
There's one distinction. Tucker is arguably the greatest to ever play his position.
Yeah.
where Deshaun Watson was never going to be in that conversation.
Yes.
But all your other points, G, are dead on. I like everything you said.
The timing is actually very similar to Deshaun because Deshaun's first accuser came out in March of 21. Mm-hmm. It was the offseason. But it actually took, if you go back and really look at it, it took a long time for the national vitriol to come because for the first year or so, it was, what are we dealing with here? And
because
people were trying to figure it out. Yep. Because he sat out, he was out of sight, out of mind. He sat out that entire 21 season. You can go back and look where the Dolphins were trying to trade for him. And there's reports on pregame shows the Dolphins are in conversations with the Texans about trading for Deshaun Watson, and there was no huge vitriol or backlash against Miami. All of that came out, really, if you really look at it, it came out when the New York Times story came out about 67 women as the accusers build into the 20s and as when the two no bills came back, the two grand jury no bills came back, and then the Browns traded for him, and then they gave him the contract, and then the New York Times story comes out, and then the HBO special comes out. But this was like a year and a half after the initial allegation.
My memory tells me, though, that the New York Times piece and everything else, wasn't that before training camp? It felt like that was...
It was during. The Times story came out in August of 22.
Right. And so, again, football was back front of mind for all of us. We have put football away for 8 months.
But that was also,
besides the draft.
But that story was also 17 months after the initial allegations were made against him. So this is still in the very, very early stages with Tucker.
Right.
And also, no disrespect to the Baltimore Banner. The Baltimore Banner is not HBO, ESPN, or the New York Times.
No, they're not.
So once ESPN or the New York Times...
But The Athletic wrote a piece over the weekend that the number's at 16. Wasn't that their reporting?
No, it was the Baltimore Banner's initial report.
It's basically just...
No, I know they were the original report, but now, since then, other news outlets have jumped on this, done their own investigative journalism.
I don't know how much we've really done.
Okay,
I didn't see it.
Okay.
I don't know, because I think a lot of what we've done is just regurgitating what's already out there.
Okay.
So if The Athletic digs in on it and comes up with its own, or if the New York Times, which is The Athletic, ESPN, HBO, it's going to carry a lot farther than the Baltimore Banner.
You know what's fascinating to me, and we didn't talk about this at all, and it almost was like a forest falling in a tree, and if no one's there to hear it, it doesn't make a sound. Jay-Z decided that, okay, I'm not going to be Deshaun Watson. I'm coming out swinging against the horrible allegations that he witnessed a rape.
G talked about this.
Okay, I wasn't here on Friday, but to me, that's Tony Busby. That is Tony Busby.
That says,
I think, said, this worked against Deshaun Watson. What other big fish can we try to fry? And Jay-Z said, not happening. And the case was thrown out. Mm-hmm. And that's that. That's over.
Because here, and I mentioned this a couple months, it's been about a month or so ago, is a lot of what Busby did is he just used public sentiment. Public sentiment is a very strong thing when it comes to allegations and certain things like that. And he was good at doing what he was doing because Deshaun Watson was being between a rock and a hard place. Some people wanted him to apologize. Some people wanted him to admit guilt. Some people said he shouldn't say anything. Some people say he should talk and open up and specifically tell what happened. And so when you get all these conflicting things, it then wears your defense down to a point where you're like, I'm damned if I do, damned if I don't. But Jay-Z, he has a different type of legal team. And here's the thing with the NFL. See, Busby failed one thing. He forgot the reason that Jay-Z is part of the NFL's brass. Jay-Z is part of the machine at the NFL. He picks the people that does the NFL halftime show. He's involved with Roger Goodell. And when Roger Goodell came out and said that we understand what the allegations are and we're standing with Jay-Z, that was a silent get off my lawn to Busby. We gave you Deshaun Watson, but this guy over here, he's under the umbrella. You might want to just chill out.
And his legal tactic was completely different from Deshaun Watson.
And he tried somebody out on television. They debunked her, whatever she said. And, there have been people trying to get Jay-Z involved in a lot of things. But you got to realize Jay-Z is very connected at all levels of entertainment, government, places, people, things. people thought he was going to get indicted along with P. Diddy or be shuffled into that. No, that never
tried.
He tried that. He tried that. They dropped it immediately.
Spinning the Tucker thing forward, so Deshaun sat an entire season, but there was a trade request in there as well. It wasn't just the allegations.
Right.
Why did he sit because of the allegations? Did he sit because of the trade request, and it's hard to separate which one. Is Tucker going to sit this year? Are they going to sit him down because of this? The NFL hearing for Deshaun came 15 months after the initial allegation. Yeah. 15 months.
So they've got a decision to make on Justin Tucker.
How fast are you going? Are you going to try and expedite this? And you're going to try and hold the hearing this summer? Because he has to go in front. Like you have to go.
You have to put him through 1 year left in him anyhow.
You have to put him through the same process that Deshaun went through.
Now,
I agree with that.
We being nice about it right now, but we'll give you the due diligence. Oh, but you better go in front of that judge. You got to do the same thing. And by the way, the Baltimore Ravens was real cocky.
They were.
When it was Deshaun Watson, they was throwing little jabs. And here's the thing. What I think will end up eventually happening is Justin Tucker was on the decline anyway. I think the Ravens, after they do their investigation and figure out what they figure out, I think they'll cut him, and he'll still have to go. But I think he's done.
Well, he won't have to go in front of an NFL disciplinary hearing if he retires.
They just cut him,
he just walks away.
Yeah.
I mean, timing is everything. Are you gonna force this summer? Do you want to get this done? Because again, Deshaun had the grand jury stuff he was going through, and the NFL wanted to let that process play out before.
I've never understood why that would take so long. If you have a group of accusers, and in this case now it's up to 16, okay, one by one you interview them.
They have to cooperate with you.
Yeah, well,
and there's no reason for them not to.
There isn't. Why wouldn't you?
If you've already come forward to this point, so keep going.
Get your pound of flesh. And I can't understand why it would take the NFL investigators any more than 8 months. The season starts in 8 months. Find these accusers, bring them in front of you, interview them, and then ultimately you're judging their credibility versus what Justin Tucker has to say. He's going to get his day in front of the investigators as well.
Yep.
And then the investigators have to come to some sort of conclusion. We believe that they are credible or he is credible. And if they believe they are credible, then they have to come down with an 11-game suspension because that's the bar.
Yep.
And they have to do it before September 1st.
Right.
And I don't know why that would take 15 months.
But again, the NFL, out of all the cases against Deshaun, they brought 4. They picked 4.
Well, because they said those were the 4 that we believed were credible. In other words, they felt all those other ones didn't raise to a level where they had concern that they were credible.
I think they felt the best about those 4 cases.
Right, so you would bring those.
Yeah. Were any of these taking place, these, I guess, massages, was they taking place after Deshaun Watson was suspended?
I think it was all before.
It was before he blew up as an NFL player. It was earlier in his career.
Oh, okay. So I was going to say, if these allegations came out after Deshaun Watson got suspended, I'm like, they might give him a year because they're going to say.
Well, the allegations came out after, but the incidents were way earlier in his career.
I think they're going to change
because I can't imagine for the life of me now that there's very much crazy stuff going on with massages and NFL players. Because if Deshaun Watson wasn't the cautionary tale for everybody, now I bet every NFL player's like, no, I'm keeping everything on. I'm good.
No, I think the NFL is going to say you're prohibited from having massages outside the team facility. Like
they should, but the problem with that is, what do you do in May, June, and July when everybody's out of the building?
Well, I think that, there may be team issue guys or team issue people that you can
go here's
to.
A list of the sanctioned
list for the certified people that you can go to.
I think what you're running into then is personal liberties. That's almost like telling a player that you've got to see the team doctor only on our clock. Well, wait a minute, I want a second opinion on my knee, and I've got a guy that I've had my whole life. And again, a lot of these guys have their own personal masseuse.
Go back to the Kirk Cousins quarterback. She came to his house. There was a woman that came to his house and treated him in his home.
Hey man, listen, leagues do invasive things all the time. They got policies. Hey, when they come to drug test you, they don't care where you at. They'll meet you at a bar, wherever you. There has to be and you don't want to make it be this, but there has to be when you have these levels of things happening, just like when they went in the stands, what was it, Detroit and the Pacers?
Yeah.
They had a dress code. They had whether you could be close to the players, whatever the case may be. I think in this case, what they're going to say is, look, we understand that you guys are, need to get massages, but we're going to find the biggest league in the world. They got the most money. We're going to find 6 or so different places or people that you can go to.
Yeah.
And this is a list of approved people, and we're going to leave it at that.
Yeah, it's still.
All right. Well, I'm glad we got that into. I just wanted to make sure we got to that today because it is timely and deserves the recognition, good or bad. So I'm glad we got that today.
Let's sum it up this way. Do you guys ever think he'll ever kick for the Ravens again? I don't.
No, I don't think.
I don't think so either.
I don't think he will.
I'm leaning toward no, but again, it took 15 months to get this before the NFL hearing.
Yeah,
but if you're just
he made
Tucker,
73% of his
I know
kicks
he
last
did.
year.
I
He
know.
was not good.
Do you
last
want
season.
to? And like the one position
And the mental
in sports,
stuff too.
Yeah, it's like
we saw. I would be out.
and he knew all this was coming.
I was just going to say
which
that.
is why he probably hit it 73%.
How much did this? Because this didn't just pop out of nowhere.
No.
So this has probably been in the works for a while. How much
right.
did that play into?
Yeah, he knew that this investigation was in the works. He'd been asked about it, and he hit it 73%. And so it's just like Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson lived it publicly, went through it, wore the scarlet letter, and you know what? We don't know. There's only a few people that really know for sure. Maybe this man did nothing at all and had his career and life completely derailed because 24 women or 26 women got together and said, let's tell a story. I'm not saying that's what happened, but there is a possibility where that is what happened. And look at what it did to his play and his mental state. He's crumbled in front of us.
Hey, man, I always said, bro, back in the day, there was rules of engagement. Now, them rules of engagement is totally different. You can't be going out there hanging out with randoms. Like, if you can't find nobody in a bar and just start talking to them.
No,
you can't find nobody at a grocery store on a plane and start talking to them and chatting it up and let's hang. Nah, bro, I'm going home.
Yeah, do you want to do super?
Yeah, we're going to fly through Super Chats. Okay. We'll wrap up for today. First one comes from Salvatore the 216 who says, don't forget about Cleveland's own Abdul Mason with a superstar performance this weekend. He knocked out his opponent, is now 17-0 with 15 knockouts. He also said Kevin Hart openly berating the players was a disgrace. Isaiah Mojica, I hope I pronounced that right. I definitely did it. Says USA versus World All-Star Games MVP hometown hosts the All-Star Game 5 years later. It's a little more incentive for guys to.
Oh, that's interesting.
I don't dislike that. I like that little wrinkle.
What if your hometown is Des Moines, Iowa?
It'd be the biggest thing that ever happened in Iowa. D. Grat says Shedeur Sanders' playing weight last season was reported at 195 pounds. That's a deal breaker for a quarterback whose number one flaw is holding onto the ball too long in the pocket.
I've heard that exact same criticism.
M. Bynes has 2. The first one, G. Bush nailed it on the barbershop this weekend. The pundits, while right at times, have also missed on some of the best quarterbacks in the league. And he also says if this becomes a true rebuilding year for the Browns as a 6-11 season or worse, signal the end for AB and Stefanski.
Likely.
Hold on. If he get a quarterback and that quarterback look like they good, they win 6 games, they're saved.
Yeah. I think the way you go 6-11
right.
matters.
Yeah, but the irony of that is 2 years ago they were 11-6 with 5 quarterbacks.
Right. So
I would rather be 11-6 with 5 quarterbacks, but you've got all the other pieces, than 6-11 with a quarterback but nothing else.
Well,
if they draft Shedeur and he looks pretty damn good, I don't think you'd potentially mess that up by then.
If he looks pretty damn good, we're not going 6-11. See Washington.
We'll see. Well, that's coming up in a sec. Chris Fox says Miles Harden and Jawan Briggs will be impactful at some point. Salvatore the 216 says, isn't G's point that it's basically pointless drafting anything but a quarterback because even if you hit on Abdul Carter, it leaves you in the exact same spot you are now no matter how well he plays?
Facts. Abdul Carter could get 25 sacks next year. And if they don't got a quarterback, they can still go 2 and something.
Is there a more overrated stat in football than sacks?
No. Wins in baseball. Wins in baseball.
I'm a defensive end, and I like sacks. But think about it. If you sack somebody and it's a 1-yard loss, what the is
What
that?
did you just accomplish?
What did you do? Like, so I'm going to drop back again and drop a dime
there's
on you.
metrics, though, that measure that position now that are far more valuable than sack.
Yes.
Sack is still the money stat.
It's a
but
money
this year's
stat.
sack leader didn't win the NFL DOP. Why?
You can have that. This kid can have the best
Pressure
season.
rate.
You got
tackles for loss. There's all kinds of things that measure.
There's a lot of them, but yes, I am essentially saying that, and I wouldn't have said it a couple of years ago, but I've learned my lesson. I learned it. Like we had Nick Chubb in his prime, we had a great offensive line, and we had Myles Garrett and Denzel Ward, and we didn't have a quarterback.
2 more super chats. Mick McGee says the NBA All-Star Game should be like Major League Baseball's home court advantage in the finals to the winner.
Baseball dropped that. They don't have that anymore.
I thought about saying that too. I don't know. That's kind of stark. Because some people, what if your team gets there, you don't even have an all-star that year?
I mean, 80% of the guys playing in that game probably have no chance of going to the finals.
Right. So they still wouldn't care.
They don't care.
And last one, Don Kenobi Music says the only contender I would trade Miles to is Washington. Second-year regression in quarterback, and a tough division could make Washington an 8-9 win team next season. And those are your super chats.
Well,
that's going to wrap it up for the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show on a Monday. We will see y'all tomorrow. Peace.